Hello everyone, and welcome to the Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Naruto was the Saiyan God, the progenitor of a new Human-Saiyan Bloodline, Naruto x Videl, Dragon Ball Z. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. Convergence of Worlds. The ancient being who had once been known simply as Naruto Uzumaki floated in the void between dimensions, his golden form pulsing with energies beyond mortal comprehension. Centuries had passed since he'd ascended beyond his mortal form, millennia since the era of hidden villages and the elemental nations had faded into myth. What remained was something, both more and less than human, a consciousness that had transcended time itself, carrying the memories of countless lives, loves, and battles. His meditation was disturbed by a ripple in the cosmic fabric, subtle, yet distinct to his heightened senses. Golden eyes that held the Rinnegan's concentric patterns opened slowly, focusing on a distortion that shouldn't exist in this realm of perfect stillness. Interesting, he murmured, his voice resonating with power that would have shattered planets in the physical realm. A new tear in reality. Throughout his long existence, Naruto had witnessed countless dimensional anomalies. But this one pulsed with a unique signature, energies he hadn't encountered before, yet somehow felt strangely familiar. The tear shimmered with a violet-blue luminescence, beckoning with whispers of possibility, curiosity, that most human of emotions and one he'd never managed to transcend, pulled him toward the anomaly. With a thought, his form consolidated into something more substantial, his traditional orange and black attire materializing around a body that appeared human but radiated with barely contained power. "Let's see where you lead," he said to the rift, reaching out with a hand marked by an ancient seal, the right half of the Sage of Six Paths, power, which had evolved into something far greater over the centuries. The moment his fingers touched the dimensional tear, the cosmos itself seemed to hold its breath. Then reality fractured. Videl Satan wiped sweat from her brow as she completed her 500th push-up, muscles burning with familiar satisfaction. The gravity chamber Bulma had built for her, similar to but less intense than the one Vegeta used, was set to 10 times Earth's normal gravity. Once, such training would have been impossible for her, but years of dedication had transformed her body into something far beyond ordinary human limitations. Still, it wasn't enough. It was never enough. Being surrounded by ions and other super-powered beings had that effect. No matter how hard she trained, she remained painfully aware of the vast gulf between herself and fighters like Gohan, Vegeta, and the others. Even her own daughter, Pan, was rapidly surpassing her in raw power thanks to her Saiyan heritage. Gravity simulation deactivating, announced the chamber's automated system. Training session complete. The crushing pressure gradually returned to normal, and Videl rolled her shoulders, feeling the pleasant ache of exertion. Her short black hair was plastered to her forehead with sweat, her training GI soaked through. At 29, she was in the peak physical condition of her life, stronger than most humans could ever hope to be. Yet the frustration remained. She grabbed a towel and water bottle, stepping out of the chamber into the personal training facility Bulma had built on the outskirts of West City. The compound had become a second home to her in recent years, especially after her amicable separation from Gohan. They remained on good terms, co-parenting Pan and maintaining friendship, but the years had revealed fundamental differences in their life paths. Gohan had returned to his scholarly pursuits, while Videl had rediscovered her passion for martial arts and justice. "You're pushing yourself too hard again," came a familiar voice. Videl turned to see Android 18 leaning against the wall, her ageless face impassive as ever. Despite their rocky beginning, the two women had developed an unexpected friendship over the years. Perhaps it was their shared experience of being non-Saiyan fighters in a world where alien power levels dominated. "Not hard enough," Videl replied, taking a long drink of water. "Did you need something?" 18 pushed away from the wall, her movement graceful and effortless. "Bulma's called an emergency meeting. Some kind of energy anomalies appearing across the planet." The android's icy blue eyes narrowed slightly. "She seems worried." That was unusual enough to capture Videl's attention immediately. After everything they'd faced, from Cell to Majin Buu to the Tournament of Power, Bulma Briefs wasn't easily rattled. I'll shower and be there in 10 minutes, Videl said, already heading toward the locker room. Make it 5, 18 called after her. Bulma mentioned something about the readings being unlike anything she's seen before. Not Frieza's army, not another universe, something completely outside our dimensional spectrum. A chill ran down Videl's spine that had nothing to do with her cooling sweat. New threats meant new dangers, and another reminder of the power gap between herself and those who could actually defend the planet. But she would be damned if she wouldn't try anyway. The conference room at Capsule Corporation headquarters was already filled when Videl arrived, her hair still damp from her hasty shower. The usual suspects were gathered. Bulma at the head of the table, flanked by Vegeta whose AR. Ms. were crossed in his characteristic pose of irritated attention. Gohan with his scholarly glasses, analyzing data on a tablet. Krillin beside his wife 18, even Piccolo lurking in the corner, his cape draped around his imposing form. Notably absent was Goku, probably off training with Whis again, Videl assumed. Some things never changed. Good, you're here, Bulma acknowledged Videl with a nod. Despite being in her 50s, the scientific genius looked barely older than when Videl had first met her, a testament to both her beauty regimen and her indomitable spirit. We can get started. With a swipe of her hand, Bulma activated the holographic display in the center of the table. A three-dimensional map of Earth appeared, dotted with pulsing red points of light. These energy signatures began appearing approximately 6 hours ago, she explained, zooming in on one of the anomalies. They don't match any known key signature, divine energy, or even the energy from other universes we've encountered. They're not static either, Gohan added, adjusting his glasses. They're growing in both intensity and frequency. This one near Mount Paozu doubled in size within the last hour alone. Vegeta leaned forward, his perpetual scowl deepening. Is it an attack? Another tournament? The Saiyan prince had mellowed over the years, but his warrior instincts remained razor sharp. Bulma shook her head. That's just it. We don't know. These readings contain elements similar to Ki, but there's something else interwoven with it. Something ancient. I feel it too, Piccolo spoke up from his corner, his deep voice resonating through the room. There's a disturbance in the fabric of reality itself, as if something is pressing against our dimension from outside. Videl studied the map, noticing a pattern in the anomalies that the others might have missed. They're forming a spiral, she pointed out, tracing the connection between the points. And converging toward, here. Her Inger landed on a point in the northern mountains, a remote wilderness area. The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. Whatever's happening, Bulma said finally, we need to investigate. The largest anomaly is here. She highlighted a pulsing red dot near Satan City, Videl's hometown, and it's growing faster than the others. I'll go, Videl volunteered immediately, ignoring the concerned look from Gohan. Not alone, Piccolo stated flatly. We don't know what these anomalies are capable of. I'll accompany her, 18 offered unexpectedly. When others looked at her questioningly, she shrugged. My energy sensors might pick up something organic beings miss. Bulma nodded in agreement. Good. Gohan, you and Piccolo check the one near Mount Paozu. Vegeta and I will. I'll monitor from here and try to contact Goku and Whis. She glanced at Krillin. Can you alert the others? We might need everyone if this turns out to be serious. The former monk nodded, already reaching for his phone. On it. As the meeting broke up, Videl felt a hand on her shoulder. She turned to see Gohan, his eyes soft behind his glasses. Be careful, he said quietly. These readings, they're like nothing we've encountered before. She offered him a reassuring smile. I always am. Besides, I've got 18 watching my back. After a moment's hesitation, she added, how's Pan doing at her training camp? Loving every minute, Gohan replied, his face lighting up at the mention of their daughter. She's already the strongest in her age group. Pride welled in Videl's chest. Of course she is. She's our daughter. For a moment, they shared a look of parental pride that transcended their personal history. Then reality intruded as alarms began blaring throughout the building. Bulma's voice cut through the chaos. The anomaly near Satan City just spiked. Massive energy readings. Videl exchanged a quick glance with 18. We need to move. The android nodded, and without another word, They were racing toward the rooftop launch pad where Bulma kept her fastest aircraft. Whatever was happening, Videl couldn't shake the feeling that their world was about to change forever. The sensation of crossing dimensions was something Naruto had experienced countless times throughout his long existence, but this transition felt fundamentally different. Instead of the usual seamless passage, this was more like being torn apart at a molecular level and forcibly reassembled, painful even to his transcendent form. He emerged into bright daylight, falling from a tear in the sky. Why that sealed itself immediately behind him. The sudden shift from the void to a world with gravity, atmosphere, and physical limitations momentarily disoriented him. Golden energy flared around his body as he stabilized himself mid-air, hovering hundreds of meters above a sprawling city unlike any he'd seen before. Interesting architecture, he murmured to himself, taking in the gleaming skyscrapers and domed buildings. The technology level appeared advanced, similar to some dimensions he'd visited, though with its own distinct aesthetic. More importantly, he sensed millions of life forms below, humans, predominantly. But with surprising variations in energy signatures. Some felt almost familiar, resonating with his own chakra in unexpected ways. Naruto closed his eyes, extending his senses beyond physical limitations. The entire planet thrummed with life energy, similar to chakra but different in fundamental ways. It flowed differently, was channeled differently, yet at its core, it shared the same primordial essence. He named it, the knowledge somehow appearing in his mind as if it had always been there. This world's energy is called Ki. But something was wrong. The dimensional fabric around him was unstable, torn in multiple locations. Through his enhanced perception, he could see the wounds in reality, bleeding points where his native dimension was pressing against this one. And through those wounds, something was following him. Something ancient and malevolent. His eyes snapped open as he sensed a massive surge of dark energy erupting from a tear forming directly above the city below. Unlike his controlled entry, this was violent and destructive, a forced invasion. Already, he muttered, his expression hardening. I haven't even had time to explore. The dimensional tear widened, crackling with malevolent purple energy. From within its depths emerged a form Naruto hadn't seen in thousands of years. A pale figure with horn-like protrusions, wrapped in flowing white robes marked with tomo patterns. Otsutsuki, Naruto breathed, the ancient name feeling strange on his tongue after so long. But this wasn't just any member of that parasitic clan that had plagued his world eons ago. This was Tenji Otsutsuki, a particularly sadistic prince who had disappeared during the final war, presumed destroyed when Naruto had sealed the dimensional pathways. Naruto Uzumaki. The pale figure's voice echoed unnaturally across the sky, his pupilless eyes fixing on the golden being hovering before him. The legendary seventh Hokage, ascended to godhood. How fitting that I should find you here, at the dawn of my resurrection. Naruto sighed, an oddly human gesture from a being of his power. Tenji, I thought you'd died when I collapsed the dimensional corridor during the Kagaya purge. The Otsutsuki's lips curved in a cold smile. Death is merely an inconvenience to those who understand the true nature of dimensions. I've been waiting. Gath, earring strength in the void between worlds. His gaze shifted to the city below. And now I find you in a realm rich with untapped energy unlike any I've encountered before. Leave these people out of our old conflicts. Naruto warned, golden chakra beginning to swirl around his form. They have nothing to do with the elemental nations or the Otsutsuki. Tenji laughed, the sound grating against reality itself. Oh, but they do. Can't you feel it? The resonance between your chakra and certain beings of this world. His pale hand gestured toward the horizon. There's a connection here. Oh. Nay, I intend to investigate thoroughly after I've dealt with you. Without further warning, Tenji thrust both hands forward, sending a massive wave of corrupted chakra hurtling toward the city below, not at Naruto, but at the innocent population. Naruto moved instantly, his form blurring as he intercepted the attack. Golden chakra arms extended from his back, forming a protective barrier that absorbed the destructive energy. The impact sent him plummeting downward, crashing into an empty street with enough force to shatter the asphalt for hundreds of meters in every direction. Rising from the crater, Naruto assessed the situation with the tactical brilliance that had made him legendary as a shinobi. Tenji was testing him, forcing him to protect the civilians while conserving his own energy. A classic opening move. Some things never change, Naruto muttered, dusting debris from his shoulders. Above, Tenji was already preparing another attack, gathering dark energy between his palms. Naruto needed to move their battle away from the populated area, but first, he needed to understand this world better, its defenders, its power structures. If Tenji was right about a connection between his chakra and this world's energy, that could be crucial information. His thoughts were interrupted by the approach of two powerful energy signatures moving at remarkable speed toward his location. Not as powerful as Tenji, but far stronger than ordinary humans. Defenders of this world, perhaps. The Capsule Corp aircraft cut through the sky at supersonic speeds, 18's hands steady on the controls as they approached Satan City. Videl monitored the energy readings on the dashboard display, her concern growing by the second. The anomaly just split in two, she reported, studying the fluctuating graphs. One signature is massive, maybe even beyond cell level. The other is, I can't even quantify it. The readings keep fluctuating between nothing and something that breaks the scale. 18's expression remained impassive, but her eyes narrowed slightly. Can you get a visual? Videl activated the forward scanning system, magnifying the image of the city skyline. What she saw made her blood run cold. Hovering above the business district was a ghostly pale figure with horns protruding from its head, wrapped in flowing white garments. Even through the view screen, the malevolent aura surrounding it was palpable. And opposite this figure, emerging from a crater in the street below. What is that? Videl breathed, zooming in on the second figure. A man, or at least something, in human form, with spiky blonde hair and strange facial markings rose from the shattered asphalt. He wore an orange and black outfit unlike any fashion Videl had seen, and his body radiated with gold. An energy that seemed to form ethereal arms extending from his back. But it was his eyes that captured Videl's attention, purple with a rippled pattern, unlike anything she'd encountered before. Even through the digital display, those eyes seemed to pierce directly into her soul. Whoever they are, they're not from our world, 18 stated flatly, banking the aircraft sharply as an explosion rocked the air nearby. And they're not playing nice. The pale figure had launched another attack, this one directed at a residential area. Before either woman could react, the blonde man moved with impossible speed, appearing directly in the path of the destructive beam. Instead of dodging, he formed strange hand signs, and a massive wall of what appeared to be solid gold energy materialized, absorbing the attack completely. He's protecting the city, Videl realized aloud. Or marking his territory, 18 countered pragmatically. We can't assume either one is friendly. The aircraft shudder. As they hit the turbulence from the energy discharges. 18 fought with the controls while Videl continued monitoring the battle unfolding beneath them. We need to evacuate civilians, Videl decided, unbuckling her safety harness. I'm going down there. 18 shot her a sharp look. That's suicide. These power levels are off the charts. I'm not going to fight them, Videl clarified, already moving toward the rear hatch. But someone needs to coordinate ground evacuation before that entire district gets leveled. Your sensors make you more valuable up here gathering intel. After a moment's hesitation, 18 nodded. I'll contact Bulma and circle the perimeter. Try not to get yourself killed. Videl managed a tight smile. No promises, but I'll do my best. With that, she hit the hatch release and leapt from the aircraft. The wind whipping her short black hair as she plummeted toward the chaos below. Years of key training allowed her to control her descent, directing her fall toward a relatively undamaged street where panicked civilians were fleeing in all directions. She landed in a controlled crouch, immediately taking charge of the situation. Everyone moved toward the western district. She shouted, her voice carrying with the authority that had made her an effective crime fighter. Follow the main boulevard out of the city center. Some recognized her, the advantage of Ang Satan City's most famous daughter, and began following her directions. Others were too panicked to listen. Videl spotted a young mother struggling with two small children, frozen in terror as debris fell around them. Without hesitation, she darted forward, scooping up both children in her arms and guiding the mother toward safety. This way, she urged, sheltering the family with her own body as another shockwave rocked the street. Above, the battle intensified, energy discharges lighting up the sky like a macabre fireworks display. The golden figure had taken to the air now, engaging the pale entity in what appeared to be hand-to-hand combat at speeds almost beyond visual tracking. Videl continued coordinating the evacuation, using her ki to clear fallen debris and protect civilians whenever possible. She had just helped an elderly couple to safety when she sensed an immense power spike above. Looking up, she saw the pale figure gathering what appeared to be a sphere of dark energy between its hands, an attack that, judging by its size and density, could level half the city. No, she gasped, knowing there was nothing she could do to stop such power, yet instinctively moving to shield the civilians behind her. The dark entity hurled the destructive sphere, not at the Golden Warrior, but directly at the evacuation route where hundreds of citizens were fleeing. Time C. Med to slow as Videl watched death approach. Her muscles tensed, her ki flaring around her body in a futile defensive stance. Then a flash of orange and gold blurred before her, and the world exploded in light. Naruto had been monitoring the two approaching energy signatures while keeping Tenji engaged in aerial combat. One had remained airborne, circling the battlefield in what appeared to be some kind of advanced flying machine. The other had descended into the city and was now coordinating civilian evacuation with impressive efficiency. A human woman with short black hair and determined blue eyes, unremarkable in appearance compared to the beings Naruto had encountered throughout his existence, yet her spirit shone with a familiar will of fire that resonated with him. Despite having minimal energy reserves compared to himself or Tenji, she showed no hesitation in putting herself between danger and innocent lives. That decided matters for Naruto. This world was worth protecting. When Tenji gathered his truth-seeking orb, a technique that should have been impossible for him to master, and aimed it at the evacuation route, Naruto made his choice instantly. He could have intercepted the attack in multiple ways, but most would have resulted in massive collateral damage. Instead, he flickered directly into the attack's path, directly in front of the dark-haired woman, and activated his most powerful defensive technique. Rakudo, Jikuken Kekai, he called out, his voice carrying the weight of centuries. Golden chakra exploded outward, forming a barrier that transcended conventional space-time. The truth-seeking orb struck the barrier and simply disappeared, absorbed into a pocket dimension where its destructive power could harm nothing. The backlash of energy sent ripples through reality itself, momentarily distorting the area around Naruto and the woman behind him. He felt her energy signature fluctuate in response to his chakra, a curious resonance that confirmed Tenji's earlier observation. There was indeed something about this world's inhabitants that connected to his own energy. Turning slightly, Naruto found himself looking directly into the woman's wide blue eyes. Up close, he could see the strength in her features, the determination that belied her relatively normal power level. She was staring at him with a mixture of awe and wariness. He'd seen countless times throughout his long life. "Get your people to safety," he told her, his voice gentler than it had been with Tenji. "I'll handle him." Before she could respond, Tenji's mocking voice rang out from above. How touching. The great Naruto Uzumaki, still playing the hero after all these millennia. The Otsutsuki descended slowly, his pale face twisted in a cruel smile. "Did you feel it just now? The resonance between your chakra and hers. It's happening all over this world, a genetic compatibility I find absolutely fascinating." Naruto kept his body positioned protectively between Tenji and the woman. "Your fight is with me, Tenji. It always has been." "Perhaps," the pale being conceded with a dismissive wave. "But why limit myself? This world is ripe with new energy to harvest. They call it. Different from chakra in composition, yet fundamentally compatible." His pupilless eyes fixed on the woman behind Naruto. "And some of these creatures have the potential to wield both. Imagine an army of such beings under my control." Naruto felt the woman tense behind him, her ki flaring defensively despite being hopelessly outmatched. "I don't know who or what you are," she called out. Her voice steady despite the overwhelming pressure of Tenji's presence, "but this is our world. You're not welcome here." Tenji laughed, the sound distorting reality around them. "Spirited little creature, isn't she? I can see why she caught your attention, Naruto." His expression hardened. "Unfortunately, I've run out of patience for this reunion. With blinding speed, Tenji unleashed a barrage of energy spears, not at Naruto, but at targets throughout the city. Dozens of dimensional tears began opening simultaneously, each disgorging pale, humanoid creatures with blank faces and elongated limbs. My vanguard, Tenji announced proudly. White Zetsu variants I've been cultivating in the void. Not as powerful as the originals, perhaps, but sufficient to harvest this world's population while you and I settle our ancient grudge. Naruto assessed the situation instantly. The Zetsu were spreading throughout the city, targeting civilians. He could sense the our defender, the one in the flying machine, already engaging some of them, but there were too many to handle alone. Go, he told the woman beside him, making his decision. Help your friend protect the people. I'll deal with Tenji. For a moment, she seemed about to argue, but pragmatism won out. With a quick nod, she launched herself into the air with surprising agility for someone of her power level, flying toward a cluster of Zetsu that were closing in on a school building. Freed from the need to protect bystanders, Naruto turned his full attention to Tenji. His eyes narrowed as golden chakra whipped around him like flames. You've made a serious mistake coming here, Tenji, he stated, his voice carrying the weight of millennia. I sealed your clan away once. This time, I'll end your existence permanently. The Otsutsuki spread his arms wide, dark energy crackling around his form. Bold words from someone so far from his native dimension. Your power is limited here, 7th Hokage. Mine, however, has been adapting to the void between worlds for eons. Without further preamble, they clashed in midair, the impact of their meeting sending shockwaves that shattered windows for kilometers in every direction. The battle for this new world had begun. Videl had never experienced anything like the golden barrier that had materialized before her, absorbing an attack that old have annihilated everything in its path. The energy had felt ancient yet familiar somehow, resonating with something deep within her in ways she couldn't articulate. And the man himself, up close. He'd seemed both impossibly powerful and strangely human. His blue eyes had shifted to that strange purple pattern when he'd deployed his power, but in the brief moment they'd made eye contact, she'd seen compassion there, alongside determination and the weight of what seemed like endless experience. Now, as she flew toward Satan City Elementary School, she forced herself to focus on the immediate threat, the pale, plant-like creatures that were spreading throughout the city like a plague. Below her, citizens ran in panic as the creatures pursued with single-minded determination, reaching OUT with elongated limbs to capture rather than kill their victims. Videl spotted 18 ahead, systematically destroying the creatures with precise energy blasts. The android moved with mechanical efficiency. But there were simply too many targets spreading too quickly. Landing beside her ally, Videl dropped into a fighting stance. What are these things? They feel wrong. Some kind of energy vampires, 18 replied, her hand glowing with power as she eliminated another creature. They're absorbing the life force of anyone they touch. Not killing them, draining them. Videl felt a chill run down her spine. Harvesting, he called it. Quote, the pale one with the horns? 18 asked, never pausing in her methodical destruction of the creatures. Yes, he called them, White Zetsu, or something. And he called the blonde one, Naruto Uzumaki. Videl ducked under a creature's grasping arm and countered with a ki-enhanced punch that shattered its torso. They're not from our universe, not even from our dimension, from what I gathered. Above them, the sky itself seemed to warp and distort as the two godlike beings clashed, their battle transcending normal physical limitations. Occasionally, gold, end chains or dark energy spears would materialize in midair, only to be countered or absorbed before they could reach the ground. Whoever the blonde one is, he's trying to protect the city, Videl added, remembering the way he had positioned himself between her and danger without hesitation. He told me to help you while he handles the leader. 18 nodded briskly. Then let's not waste the opportunity. We need to contain these things until backup arrives. They worked in tandem, 18's overwhelming power complemented by Videl's tactical awareness and martial arts precision. They had just ARED the school building when Videl's communicator crackled to life. Videl, 18, do you copy? Bulma's voice came through, tense with urgency. We're picking up massive energy fluctuations all over the city. We're a little busy here. Bulma, Videl replied, narrowly dodging a Zetsu's extendable arm before countering with a spinning kick that separated its head from its body. The situation is complicated. Listen carefully. Bulma cut in. Whatever's happening is affecting the fabric of reality itself. These aren't just energy readings, they're dimensional fractures. And they're spreading. Videl glanced up at the aerial battle. Each impact between the two beings seemed to create ripples in the air itself, like cracks in an invisible barrier. Can you be more specific? The energy from these beings is somehow resonating with certain individuals, Bulma explained rapidly. People with high ki potential are specific genetic markers. It's like it's waking something up in their DNA. 18 joined the conversation, her voice calm despite the chaos around them. Are you saying these dimensional visitors are affecting our genetic structure somehow? Not exactly, Bulma clarified. It's more like their energy is activating something that was already there. Something dormant. My readings show the strongest reactions in individuals with Saiyan DNA, but even some humans are showing responses. Including you, Videl. Videl nearly missed a step at that revelation, recovering just in time to avoid a Zetsu's attack. Me? What do you mean? Your biological readings have been fluctuating ever since you entered proximity with the golden energy signature, Bulma said. It's subtle, but definite. Something about your genetic makeup is resonating with his energy. Before Videl could process this information, a new wave of Zetsu emerged from a tear in reality nearby, surrounding a group of trapped civilians. She and 18 moved immediately to intercept, but they were too far away to reach them in time. Then a blur of orange and gold descended from above, landing amidst the creatures with earth-shattering force. The blonde warrior, Naruto, had somehow disengaged from his ba. TTLE with Tenji long enough to intervene. His movements were nothing short of miraculous, each gesture precise and devastatingly effective. Golden energy extensions that resembled arms sprouted from his back, each moving independently to dispatch Zetsu while his physical form protected the civilians. Within seconds, the immediate threat was neutralized, and Naruto turned toward Videl and 18, his strange purple-patterned eyes assessing them briefly before returning to their natural blue. Your world's defenders are on their way, he informed them, his voice carrying easily despite the distance. I've sensed several powerful energies approaching. But Tenji is summoning reinforcements as well, more powerful ones. As if on cue, a massive dimensional tear split the sky overhead, and Tenji's voice echoed throughout the city. Enough games, Naruto. Let me show you what I've been developing during my exile. From within the tear emerged a monstrous form, a towering humanoid creature with pale skin, multiple arms, and a singular Rinnegan eye in the center of its forehead. Its body appeared to be constructed from hundreds of fused white Zetsu, creating a patchwork abomination that radiated malevolent power. My masterpiece, Tenji announced proudly from atop the creature's shoulder. A perfect fusion of Otsutsuki technology and the unique properties of the Zetsu. Capable of absorbing both chakra and this world's ki simultaneously. The monster let out a roar that shook the foundations of buildings throughout the city, its massive arms reaching toward the sky as if to tear reality itself. Naruto's expression hardened, golden energy flaring around him in response to the new threat. Get your people as far away as possible, he told Videl and 18, his voice carrying an authority that brooked no argument. This is about to escalate beyond anything your world has experienced. Before either woman could respond, he shot upward, golden chakra forming a comet-like tail behind him as he rocketed toward the monstrous fusion. Their collision sent out a shockwave that knocked Videl off her feet despite her superhuman balance. 18 helped her up, the android's expression as close to concern as her artificial features allowed. We need to move, now. Videl nodded, turning to the civilians they'd been protecting. Everyone follow us, away from the city center. As they led the group toward the evacuation zone, Videl couldn't help looking back at the battle unfolding in the sky. Naruto was a blur of golden light, moving faster than her eyes could track, countering the monster's every move with techniques unlike anything she'd witnessed before. Something about him pulled at her consciousness, a strange familiarity that made no rational sense. Bulma's words echoed in her mind, about her genetic makeup resonating with his energy. What did that mean? And why did she feel so certain that his arrival was somehow significant beyond the immediate crisis? These questions would have to wait. For now, survival was the priority. Naruto engaged the Zetsu fusion with careful precision, analyzing its capabilities while keeping Tenji in his peripheral awareness. The construct was impressive, a crude but effective attempt to replicate the power of the 10 tails from his world, adapted to absorb the unique energy of this dimension. "You've been busy," he commented, dodging a massive fist while simultaneously countering with a Rasengan that tore through one of the creature's secondary arms. "But you've forgotten what you're dealing with." Tenji sneered from his perch atop the monster. "I've forgotten nothing, 7th Hokage. I've spent millennia studying you, learning your techniques, understanding your weaknesses." His hands formed a complex seal. "For instance, your compassion for lesser beings." Quote, the fusion creature suddenly changed tactics, ignoring Naruto to direct a massive energy beam toward the evacuation route where Videl and the android woman were leading civilians to safety. Naruto reacted instantly, his hands forming the cross seal that had been his signature since childhood. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. Dozens of identical copies of him self-materialized throughout the battlefield, moving with perfect coordination. Some intercepted the energy beam with their combined defensive techniques, others evacuated civilians from danger zones. While the original continued engaging the fusion monster. Through the eyes of his clones, Naruto observed the dark-haired woman, Videl. He'd heard the android call her, fighting with remarkable skill despite her limited power. Her movements spoke of extensive martial arts training, and she used her energy, with precise efficiency. More importantly, he could sense something within her genetic coop that resonated with his own chakra, a dormant potential that was beginning to awaken through proximity to his power. It wasn't unique to her, he could sense similar resonances in varying degrees throughout this world's population. Particularly strong in a few individuals currently approaching from different directions. "Fascinating, isn't it?" Tenji called out, as if reading his thoughts. "I discovered it while studying the dimensional barriers. Something about this world's evolutionary path created beings compatible with our chakra. The strongest compatibility seems to be with a subspecies they call Saiyans, warrior beings with immense ki potential." Naruto split his attention between the battle and processing this information. If Tenji was right, and Naruto's own senses confirmed it suggested a connection between his dimension and this one that transcended simple parallel evolution. "That's why you followed me here," Naruto realized aloud, deflecting another attack from the fusion monster. "You're planning to harvest these compatible beings to enhance your own power." Tenji's smile widened. "Not just enhance, transform. Imagine an army of warriors capable of wielding both chakra and ki, bound to my will. I would become unstoppable across all dimensions." The Otsutsuki raised his hand, and dozens more dimensional tiers began opening across the sky, each disgorging more white Zetsu onto the city below. "And it begins now." Naruto assessed the situation with the strategic mind that had made him legendary. His clones were holding their own against the standard Zetsu. But the fusion monster was another matter entirely. More concerning were the approaching energy signatures. This world's defenders were powerful, but unprepared for the unique nature of Otsutsuki techniques. He needed to end this quickly, before the dimensional damage became irreparable. Drawing on the full extent of his power, Naruto activated his most transcendent form. Golden chakra exploded outward, enveloping his body in luminous energy that took on the appearance of a traditional nine-tailed fox, yet evolved beyond its original form. The truth-seeking orbs manifested around him, spinning in complex patterns as reality itself bent to his will. "It ends here, Tenji," he declared, his voice resonating with power that transcended physical limitations. "You will not corrupt this world as your clan tried to corrupt mine." With a thought, he teleported directly before the Otsutsuki, bypassing the fusion monster's defenses entirely. Tenji's eyes widened in surprise. He had underestimated how much power Naruto could channel even in this unfamiliar dimension. Flying Thunder God technique, Tenji breathed, recognizing the legendary jutsu of the 4th Hokage. "Impossible. That technique requires pre-placed markers." Naruto allowed himself a small smile. "I've had centuries to evolve beyond such limitations. As I said, You've forgotten what you're dealing with. Before Tenji could respond, Naruto struck with a technique that combined the Rasengan with the truth-seeking orbs, a spiraling sphere of energy that contained the power to erase matter at a fundamental level. Rakudo. Muko Rasengan, he called out, driving the technique directly into Tenji's chest. The Otsutsuki's eyes widened in genuine fear as the attack connected, his body beginning to disintegrate from the point of impact. This isn't over, he gasped, his form already dissolving. The connection, it's already been established. You can't undo what's begun. With those cryptic words, Tenji's physical form completely dissipated, reduced to particles of light that scattered across the dimensional barriers. The fusion monster, bereft of its master's control, let out a howl of rage and confusion. Without Tenji's guiding intelligence, it reverted to base instincts, lashing out indiscriminately at everything around it. Naruto turned his attention to the rampaging creature, Prepar, aiming to eliminate it with another application of his enhanced Rasengan. But before he could strike, a new energy signature arrived on the battlefield, one that dwarfed even the fusion monster's power. A man with spiky black hair appeared in midair, wearing an orange gi with a blue undershirt. His expression was serious, yet Naruto detected a certain childlike curiosity in his eyes, a strange juxtap. Sishin with the overwhelming power radiating from his form. Hey there, the newcomer called out with surprising casualness. Looks like you could use a hand. Without waiting for a response, the man turned toward the fusion monster, his expression shifting to one of focused determination. With a powerful ki, his hair transformed from black to brilliant gold, his aura exploding outward in a ice play of power that rivaled Naruto's own Six Paths Sage mode. Ka, me, ha, me, ha, the golden-haired warrior shouted, thrusting his hands forward to release a massive beam of concentrated ki energy. The attack struck the fusion monster head-on, vaporizing its upper body instantly. The remainder of its form began crumbling, the individual Zetsu components falling apart without the binding power of Tenji's technique. As the threat dissipated, the warrior turned to Naruto with a grin that seemed incongruously cheerful given the circumstances. Hi, I'm Goku, he introduced himself, floating closer. You must be the guy Bulma was telling us about. The one who came through the dimensional thing. Naruto allowed his Six Paths form to fade slightly, maintaining enough power to remain alert but presenting a less overwhelming presence. Naruto Uzumaki, he responded with a polite nod. Your timing was excellent. Thanks. Goku replied, seemingly pleased by the compliment. So, what exactly is going on? Bulma said something about dimensional tears and genetic resonance, but I was kind of in the middle of training with Whis, so I missed most of the details. Naruto studied the warrior, Goku, with interest. His power was immense, on par with some of the strongest beings Naruto had encountered throughout his long existence. Yet there was a purity to his energy, an sense of malevolence that was refreshing after dealing with Tenji's corrupted chakra. More importantly, Goku's ki resonated strongly with Naruto's chakra, the strongest compatibility he'd sensed since arriving in this dimension. There was something about his genetic structure that seemed almost perfectly attuned to the energy Naruto wielded. Before he could respond to Goku's question, however, dimensional tears Tenji had created began pulsing with renewed activity. Without their creator to sustain them, they were becoming unstable, threatening to expand uncontrollably. We have a more immediate problem, Naruto said, gesturing toward the rifts. Those tears in reality need to be sealed, or they'll continue growing until they consume your entire world. Goku's expression turned serious again. Can you fix them? Yes, Naruto confirmed, but it will require significant energy, and a focal point native to this dimension to anchor the sealing technique. He glanced down at the city below, where Videl and the android were still coordinating evacuation efforts. Someone with the right genetic compatibility. Following his gaze, Goku spotted Videl among the defenders. You mean Videl, Gohan's wife, ex-wife, whatever they are now. Her energy signature shows strong compatibility with my chakra, Naruto explained. She could serve as the anchor point for a sealing technique Hat would close all the dimensional tiers simultaneously. Goku scratched his head thoughtfully. Would it hurt her? The question reflected a protectiveness that Naruto found admirable. No, but it would change her. The process would fully awaken the dormant potential in her genetic structure, giving her access to abilities similar to my own, in addition to her ki. Huh, Goku said, considering this. Well, we should probably ask her then. Vidal's pretty independent. She wouldn't like us making decisions for her. Naruto smiled slightly, appreciating the respect shown toward the woman's autonomy. A wise approach. Shall we? Together, they descended toward the evacuation zone where Videl was helping treat injured civilians. She looked up as they approached, her expression showing recognition of Goku and cautious interest in Naruto. Goku, she acknowledged with a nod before turning her attention to Naruto. I see you defeated the Horned One. Tenji Otsutsuki, Naruto confirmed. An ancient enemy from my dimension. Unfortunately, the damage he caused remains. He gestured toward the dimensional tiers still visible in the sky. These rifts will continue expanding unless sealed. And you know how to seal them? Videl asked directly, her perceptiveness impressive. Naruto nodded. I do, but the technique requires an anchor point. Someone from this dimension whose energy is compatible with my own. He paused, meeting her gaze steadily. Someone like you. Her eyes widened slightly, but she maintained her composure. Why me specifically? Your genetic structure shows a strong resonance with my chakra. Naruto explained. It's a compatibility that exists in varying degrees throughout your world's population, but yours is particularly strong, almost as if. As if what? She prompted when he hesitated. Naruto chose his words carefully. As if there's a connection between our dimensions that predates both of us. A shared origin point in the distant past. Videl absorbed this information with remarkable calm. And if I agree to be this anchor, what exactly would happen? I would channel my chakra through you, using your connection to this dimension to seal all the rifts simultaneously. Naruto explained. The process would be painless, but it would permanently awaken certain dormant aspects of your genetic structure, giving you access to abilities similar to my own, in addition to your ki. Quote. Her eyebrows rose at this. You're offering me power. Not offering, Naruto clarified. It's a consequence of the sealing technique. The potential already exists within you. This would simply activate it fully. Goku, who had been uncharacteristically quiet during this exchange, spoke up. It's your choice, Videl. No pressure. She looked between them, then at the dimensional tiers still pulsing ominously in the sky. Around them, injured civilians were being treated. Buildings lay in ruins, and the white Zetsu that had been defeated were dissolving into pale dust. If I don't do this, what happens? She asked pragmatically. The tiers will continue expanding, Naruto said honestly. Eventually, they'll destabilize your entire dimension, potentially causing it to collapse entirely. Quote. Videl's expression hardened with resolve. Then there's no choice to make. Let's do it. Naruto nodded, respecting her decisive nature. We should move to a more central location, ideally equidistant from the major rifts. The Capsule Corporation campus, she suggested immediately. It's reinforced to withstand extreme energy discharges, and Bulma's equipment might help stabilize the process. Quote. Good thinking, Goku agreed. I can instant transmission us there. Without waiting for further discussion, he placed one hand on Naruto's shoulder and the other on Videl's. Pressing two fingers to his forehead with his free hand. In an instant, they vanished, reappearing on the sprawling grounds of Capsule Corp where Bulma and several others were monitoring the crisis. Bulma briefs. A blue-haired woman whose intelligence Naruto could sense even without his enhanced perceptions, looked up in surprise as they materialized. Goku. Videl. Her gaze shifted to Naruto. Scientific curiosity overtaking any fear she might have felt at his otherworldly presence. And you must be our dimensional visitor. Naruto Uzumaki. He introduced himself with a respectful inclination of his head. We don't have much time. The dimensional tiers are growing unstable. Quickly, he explained the situation and the sealing technique he proposed, while Bulma listened with remarkable comprehension. Occasionally interjecting with insightful questions about the energetic principles involved. Fascinating, she said when he finished. A genetic compatibility between our dimensions that predates recorded history. It could explain certain anomalies in Saiyan and human DNA that have always puzzled me. She turned to Videl. You're sure about this? Videl nodded firmly. If it saves our world. There's no question. Then let's proceed, Naruto said, his tone grave yet reassuring. But first, I should explain what you might experience afterward. The awakening of chakra within someone who already possesses ki is unprecedented. Will it hurt? Videl asked practically. No, Naruto assured her. But it will change you on a fundamental level. You'll gain access to abilities similar to my own, though it may take time to master them. Your perception of the world will expand. Your connection to natural energy will deepen. She absorbed this with remarkable calm. I understand. I'm ready. Naruto nodded, impressed by her courage. He instructed her to stand in the center of the open courtyard, then began forming a complex series of hand seals. Move me. NTS so rapid they blurred even to the enhanced perceptions of those watching. Golden chakra began swirling around him, coalescing into visible patterns that resembled ancient script combined with geometric formulas. The energy spread outward, forming a massive seal array that encompassed the entire Capsule Corp compound. Remain still, he instructed Videl as he approached her, golden energy surrounding his right hand. Focus on your connection to this world, to the people and places you care about. That connection will guide the sealing energy. She nodded, closing her eyes in concentration. Naruto placed his palm gently against her forehead, and the golden chakra began flowing from him into her. At first, nothing visible happened. Then, slowly, her body began to radiate with a soft UE light, her natural ki responding to the introduction of chakra. The two energies swirled around each other, creating patterns of light that spiraled outward from her form. Naruto channeled more power into the technique, his eyes shifting to their Rinnegan pattern as he accessed the full depth of his Six Paths abilities. Through this enhanced perception, he could see the changes occurring within. Videl's genetic structure, dormant sequences activating, energy pathways reforming, her very cells resonating with the combined power of chakra and ki. Above them, the dimensional tiers began responding to the technique, their chaotic pulsing stabilizing as golden energy reached out to encircle each rift. Like stitches in the fabric of reality, the chakra threads began pulling the tiers closed, sealing the breaches between dimensions. As the final rift sealed, there was a momentary flash of blinding light, and a shockwave of energy radiated outward from Videl's position at the center of the array. Naruto maintained the connection, carefully guiding the process to completion as the last traces of Tenji's dimensional tampering were erased from this world. When the light faded, Videl stood transformed, not in physical appearance, but in the energy that surrounded her. Her natural ki had been joined by a distinct chakra signature, the two energies existing in perfect harmony within her form. She opened her eyes, which now contained a subtle ring pattern around the pupils, not the full Rinnegan, but an echo of its power. Her gaze met Naruto's, filled with wonder and questions. I can see everything, she whispered, her perception expanding beyond normal limitations. The energy flowing through the world, through people, it's beautiful. Naruto smiled, understanding exactly what she was experiencing. That's chakra, the fundamental life energy that connects all living things. You're the first person in your dimension to fully awaken it alongside ki. Around them, the oath. Watched in amazement as Videl experimentally raised her hand, a perfect sphere of swirling energy, half ki, half chakra, forming above her palm. This power, she said, looking at the sphere with a mixture of awe and responsibility. What does it mean? Naruto's expression became solemn. It means that Tenji, even in defeat, was right about one thing. There is a connection between our dimensions, one that predates both of us. Your world's inhabitants, especially those with strong ki potential, carry genetic markers compatible with chakra. He glanced at Goku, whose energy signature showed the strongest compatibility. In my dimension, legends speak of the Otsutsuki clan arriving from the stars to harvest chakra. What if they weren't the first visitors? What if, eons ago, beings from my world came here and influenced your world's evolutionary path? You're suggesting some kind of ancient cross-dimensional colonization? Bulma asked, her scientific mind immediately grasping the implications. Or perhaps a refugee scenario, Naruto suggested. Fleeing from the Otsutsuki, carrying genetic material that would eventually evolve into the Saiyan race and influence human development. Videl absorbed this information, looking down at the energy still swirling around her hand. And now that connection has been reactivated. Through me, Naruto nodded. You're the first, but likely not the last. The sealing technique has stabilized the dimensional boundaries, but the resonance between our energies has been established. Others with compatible genetics may begin awakening semi-law abilities, especially those close to you. Like Pan, Videl whispered, thinking of her daughter. Your child? Naruto inquired. She nodded. My daughter with Gohan, who is half Saiyan. Then yes, she would likely show strong compatibility, Naruto confirmed. She would carry both the Saiyan genetic markers and your newly awakened chakra potential. The implications hung in the air, a new bloodline that combined the power of two dimensions, starting with Videl and potentially her daughter. A genetic legacy that could transform this world's future. What happens now? Goku asked, unusually thoughtful. Are you going back to your dimension? Naruto considered the question. With Tenji defeated and the dimensional tiers sealed, he could return to his solitary existence between worlds. Yet something about this dimension called to him, a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in centuries. The boundaries between our dimensions have been weakened, he said finally. Even sealed, they remain more permeable than before. If other Otsutsuki discover this world with its unique energy, they will come, drawn by the potential of beings who can wield both chakra and ki. You're saying we might face more threats like Tenji? Videl concluded, her natural strategic mind quickly assessing the situation. Eventually, yes, Naruto confirmed. Which is why it might be better if I remained here, at least for a time. To help prepare for such possibilities, and to guide those who, like you, begin awakening to chakra. He looked at Videl directly, sensing the questions in her mind. Beginning with you, what you've gained today is power, yes, but also responsibility. You're now the bridge between two energy systems that were never meant to combine, a progenitor of something entirely new. Videl met his gaze steadily, the subtle rings in her eyes catching the sunlight. Then I'll need a teacher. Naruto smiled, feeling something he hadn't experienced in centuries, a connection to another being that went beyond mere interaction. A resonance that suggested possibilities he had long abandoned. It would be my honor, he replied with a respectful bow. Around them, the world continued wreck. Overing from Tenji's attack, emergency vehicles racing through streets, medical teams treating the injured, reconstruction already beginning. Yet beneath this visible activity, an invisible change had begun, a merging of energies that would transform this dimension forever. The age of chakra had dawned in the world of ki, and Naruto Uzumaki, once the seventh Hokage, now something far beyond, would guide its emergence. And it would begin with the woman standing before him, whose courage and determination had already impressed him more than she could know. Chapter 1 End Chapter 2, Legacy of the Sage. Dawn broke over the Capsule Corporation compound, painting the dome-shaped buildings in hues of amber and gold. Sitting cross-legged atop the highest structure, Naruto Uzumaki observed the awakening city with ancient eyes. The damage from yesterday's battle had been substantial, yet already reconstruction crews swarmed through the affected districts, rebuilding with remarkable efficiency. His world's resilience impressed him, reminiscent of Konoha after Pain's assault, so many lifetimes ago. His meditation was interrupted by approaching footsteps, light, precise, and purposeful. He didn't need to turn to identify the visitor. You're up early, Videl remarked, joining him at the edge of the dome. She wore simple training clothes, fitted black pants and a loose white tunic, her short dark hair tousled by the morning breeze. I don't require much sleep anymore, Naruto replied, opening eyes that shimmered briefly with their ring pattern before settling into cerulean blue. A few hours every few days is sufficient. Videl lowered herself beside him, movements fluid yet careful, still adjusting to the changes in her body. Since yesterday's sealing ritual, her awareness had expanded exponentially, senses previously unimaginable now flooding her consciousness with information. The world appeared differently through her altered perception, living things pulsed with intertwined threads of blue ki and golden chakra. Visible even through solid walls. Is it always like this? She asked, gesturing vaguely around them. Seeing everything, feeling everything. A smile touched Naruto's lips, not the fox-like grin of his youth, but something gentler, tempered by countless years of solitude and reflection. You learn to filter it. Right now, your chakra pathways are raw and unregulated, like new neural connections forming after injury. With training, you'll gain control. She nodded, studying her palm where a small sphere of energy, half blue ki, half golden chakra, materialized unbidden before dissipating. It keeps happening spontaneously. I nearly destroyed my bathroom mirror this morning. Your body is seeking equilibrium between two fundamental energy systems that evolved separately over millennia. Naruto explained. Ki, the life force cultivated in this dimension through physical training and emotional catalysts. And chakra, the energy in my dimension that combines physical and spiritual energies through precise control. He raised his own hand, creating a perfect Rasengan that spun silently above his palm, a technique so familiar he could form it without conscious thought. This was one of my first major techniques, the Rasengan. Created by my father, perfected by me. The visible manifestation of chakra control. Videl watched, fascinated, as the SWIRLING sphere hummed with contained power. Could I learn that? Eventually. Your chakra network is still developing. He dispelled the technique with a thought. But first, you need to understand what's happening to you. What you've become. Her eyes, now bearing that subtle ring pattern that echoed his own Rinnegan, met his directly. Then tell me, everything. Naruto considered her request, say. NSING the determination beneath her composed exterior. This woman had agreed to serve as dimensional anchor with minimal hesitation, accepting fundamental changes to her being to save her world. She deserved the full truth. My story begins over 1,000 years ago, in a dimension where chakra, not ki, was the dominant energy system. He began, his voice taking on a resonant quality that seemed to carry the weight of centuries. I was born in Konohagakure, the village hidden in the leaves, to the fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, and Kushina Uzumaki, the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox. As he spoke, his chakra reached out, creating a three-dimensional illusion that materialized between them, a visualization of his memories that shimmered like golden mist given form. Within this spectral display appeared the image of a sprawling village nestled beneath a mountain carved with 4 stone faces. Videl's eyes widened at the display of power, so different from the energy projections she was familiar with. You're making me see your memories, a technique developed after centuries of solitude, Naruto acknowledged. Words alone seem insufficient after so long. The images shifted, owing a blonde-haired boy in an orange jumpsuit, his face marked with whisker-like scars, eyes burning with determination despite the hateful glares surrounding him. I grew up alone, hated by most of the village for containing the 9 tails, a creature of immense destructive power that had been sealed within me at birth. The illusion displayed the massive fox, 9 tails lashing with apocalyptic fury. The demon attacked on the night I was born. My father sacrificed his life to seal it within me, his own newborn son, believing I would someday master its power. Videl watched in stunned silence. CE as the story unfolded before her, the lonely child becoming a genin, forming Team 7 with Sasuke and Sakura under Kakashi's guidance, facing enemies of increasing power while struggling with the demon sealed within him. She witnessed his growth through trials and battles, the formation of bonds that defied the hatred surrounding him. Your strength came from protecting others, she observed as He illusion showed a young Naruto standing bloodied but defiant before enemies threatening his precious people. A smile touched his lips. My ninja way, was never to give up, never to go back on my word. I promised to protect those precious to me, no matter the cost. The images accelerated, showing his evolution into a powerful shinobi, mastering sage mode, befriending the 9-tailed fox now revealed as Kurama. Becoming the hero of the 4th Great Ninja War. Videl watched in awe as a teenage Naruto faced godlike enemies, wielding power that dwarfed anything she had witnessed outside the gods of destruction. You were so young, she murmured, watching the war scenes unfold. Younger than I was when I met Gohan. 17 when we defeated Kagaya Otsutsuki, the progenitor of chakra in our world and ancestor to Tenji, whom you met yesterday. The illusion showed the ethereal, horned woman whose appearance resonated with the pale being who had attacked Satan City. She came from beyond the stars, consuming worlds for their chakra. My friend Sasuke and I were given powers by the Sage of 6 Paths to seal her away. The imagery shifted to show 2 young men, one blonde, nay dark-haired, each bearing a special marking on opposite palms. Together, they sealed away the goddess in a dimensional prison. But that wasn't the end. Naruto continued, the illusion now showing a young adult version of himself wearing the formal robes of the Hokage, the leader of his village. I achieved my dream of becoming Hokage. I married, had children, watched them grow. A wistful expression crossed his face as the images showed a beautiful woman with lavender eyes and indigo hair, and 2 children, a boy with whisker marks like his father, and a girl with her mother's gentle features. Hinata, he named the woman softly. My wife. And our children, Boruto and Himawari. Videl recognized the expression in his eyes, the same look Gohan wore when speaking of Pan, even after their separation. The love of a parent transcended all else. What happened to them? She asked gently. The illusion shifted, showing the passage of time, decades compressed into moments. The village evolved, technology advanced. Peace reigned under Naruto's leadership. Then came new threats. Otsutsuki clan members seeking vengeance for Kagaya, dimensional invaders, power-hungry shinobi. We maintained peace for many years, Naruto said, his voice steady despite the emotion behind his words. I watched my children grow, marry, have children of their own. I buried friends, Kakashi, Sakura, Shikamaru, Sai, one by one. Even Sasuke eventually. Time claimed them all while I remained unchanged. The illusion showed an aging Hinata lying in bed, her hair silver white, her face lined with years, while Naruto, still appearing barely 30, held her hand. The 9 tails chakra, combined with my Uzumaki lineage and the 6 paths power, had unexpected consequences. My aging slowed, then stopped entirely. I watched Hinata grow old and die while I remained the same. His voice held ancient grief, controlled but never forgotten. Then my children followed her, decades later. And their children after them. The images shifted to show Naruto standing atop the Hokage monument, now carved with many more faces than before, looking out over a Konoha transformed beyond recognition, a modern metropolis of skyscrapers and advanced technology. Centuries passed. I stepped down as Hokage, becoming instead a guardian who watched from the shadows. The shinobi system evolved, then eventually faded. Chakra usage became less common as technology replaced many of its applications. The tailed beasts, including Kurama, eventually passed back into the natural energy system. Videl watched, transfixed, as he illusion displayed Naruto's evolution, his power growing beyond conventional chakra, his connection to natural energy deepening until he became something transcendent. His appearance subtly changed, the whisker marks fading. His eyes permanently altered with the Rinnegan pattern, his form occasionally becoming pure energy. What changed you from human to whatever you are now? She asked. Understanding, he replied simply. After centuries of meditation, study, and communion with the natural world, I began comprehending reality differently. The sage of 6 paths had only scratched the surface of what chakra truly was, a connecting force between dimensions, between all living things across reality itself. The illusion showed Naruto floating in meditation among the stars, his form raw, radiating golden light as he perceived the interconnectedness of all things. I became one with the natural energy of my world, evolving beyond physical limitations. And in doing so, I sensed other dimensions, parallel worlds with their own energy systems. The imagery shifted to show countless worlds suspended in the cosmic void, each with its unique energy signature. One pulsed with familiar blue light, ki rather than chakra. I spent centuries exploring these dimensions, observing but rarely interfering. But some threats transcended dimensional boundaries, Otsutsuki survivors and other entities that sought to consume worlds as Kagaya once had. I confronted them when necessary, becoming a guardian of the dimensional barriers. The illusion faded as Naruto concluded his story, leaving them sitting in the morning sunlight atop the Capsule Corp dome. Yesterday's incident with Tenji was merely the latest in an ancient conflict. But something about this dimension is different, the resonance between our energy systems. The genetic compatibility. It suggests a connection far older than either of our recorded histories. Videl absorbed this information in silence, processing the enormity of what she'd witnessed. The being beside her had lived through millennia, had loved and lost countless times, had evolved beyond humanity while retaining his essential compassion. Thank you, she said finally. For showing me. Naruto inclined his head. You deserve to know what you've become part of. The awakening of chakra in your system has connected you to this legacy. You're now the first of a new line. Capable of wielding both energies in harmony. And that makes me what, exactly? She asked, studying the faint golden glow that occasionally rippled beneath her skin when emotions ran strong. A bridge between worlds, he replied. The beginning of something unprecedented. What the Otsutsuki feared most. Evolution beyond their control. Before Videl could respond, her communicat chimed with Bulma's distinctive ringtone. She activated the device, projecting a holographic image of the blue-haired scientist hovering above her wrist. Videl, I need you, an hour-dimensional visitor in my laboratory immediately. Bulma announced without preamble, her expression animated with scientific excitement. I've been analyzing the energy readings from yesterday's incident, and you won't believe what I've discovered. Naruto and Videl exchanged glances. We'll be right there, Videl confirmed, ending the transmission. Rising to her feet with newfound grace, a benefit of her enhanced CED chakra network, Videl offered her hand to Naruto. Ready to see what she's found. Taking her hand with a small smile, Naruto allowed himself to be pulled to his feet, an unnecessary courtesy they be. Both recognized as symbolic rather than practical. Lead the way. Together, they descended from the rooftop, stepping into a future neither could have anticipated just 24 hours earlier. Bulma's primary laboratory occupied an entire sublevel of Capsule Corporation, a vast chamber filled with equipment that would have appeared magical to most scientists on Earth. Massive holographic displays lined the walls. Quantum computers processed data at inconceivable speeds, and prototype devices in various stages of development cluttered workbenches throughout the space. When Naruto and Videl entered, they found not only Bulma but an unexpected gathering. Android 18 leaning against a console with characteristic detachment, Gohan examining data with scholarly intensity, and Vegeta standing with arms crossed near the main display, his perpetual scowl deepened by whatever he'd been shown. Good, you're here, Bulma acknowledged their arrival with a distracted wave. I've been running analyses on the energy signatures from yesterday's dimensional incursion, cross-referencing them with Videl's new biometric readings and historical anomalies in our archaeological database. She steered expansively toward the central holographic projection, a complex three-dimensional model showing DNA strands interwoven with energy patterns. What I've found is, well, revolutionary doesn't begin to cover it. Gohan looked up from his tablet, adjusting his glasses with a scholarly gesture reminiscent of his youth. The genetic compatibility Mr. Uzumaki mentioned isn't just theoretical, it's encoded in certain human and Saiyan DNA sequences that have always defied conventional evolutionary models. In English, please, 18 requested dryly, though her icy blue eyes remained fixed on the displays with unusual interest. Bulma took over, her enthusiasm bubbling through her scientific precision. Certain genetic markers in Earth's population, particularly concentrated in individuals' high key potential, match energy signatures from Naruto's dimension. These markers are especially prevalent in Saiyan DNA, but also appear in select human bloodlines. The display shifted to show a map of Earth with highlighted regions. These concentrations appear strongest in areas with ancient martial arts traditions or historical accounts of supernatural abilities predating key mastery. Videl stepped closer to the display, noticing a significant concentration over the region containing Satan City, her ancestral homeland. You're saying my family carries these markers? Your paternal lineage traces back to one of the oldest martial arts dynasties on Earth, Bulma confirmed. Though your father might not demonstrate the potential, the genetic foundation is there, activated in UTH. Rough exposure to Naruto's chakra during the sealing ritual. Gohan added, and our daughter Pan would inherit both your activated markers and my Saiyan genetics, potentially making her compatibility even stronger. The implications hung in the air, momentarily silencing the room. It was Vegeta who broke the contemplative quiet, his gruff voice carrying the weight of Saiyan pride. What does this mean for Saiyan heritage? He demanded, addressing Naruto directly. Are you claiming our warrior race descended from your dimension's refugees? Naruto met the Saiyan prince's challenging gaze without flinching. One ancient warrior acknowledging another's pride. Not necessarily descended, but possibly influenced. The genetic markers suggest that beings from my dimension may have interacted with your world's evolutionary path thousands of years ago, perhaps interbreeding with early Saiyan ancestors or proto-human populations. That would explain certain Saiyan abilities that have always defied conventional key theory. Gohan mused. The great ape transformation, Super Saiyan forms, even the ease with which Saiyans adapt to new power levels, these could be distant expressions of dormant chakra potential. Bulma nodded enthusiastically. Exactly. And here's where it gets even more interesting. She swiped her hand through the holographic controls, bringing up archaeological images of ancient ruins, stone tablets covered in symbols that appeared similar to the script Naruto had used in his sealing technique. These were discovered 50 years ago in a remote region of the Arctic, she explained. No one could decipher the language, it matched no known Earth civilization. But when I ran the symbols through pattern recognition against the energy signatures from yesterday's incident, the computer highlighted matching patterns between the stone inscriptions and the chakra flows Naruto had deployed during the sealing ritual. They're written in a proto-form of Fuinjutsu, sealing techniques from my world. Naruto confirmed, stepping closer to examine the images with genuine surprise. Ancient, simplified, but recognizable. Can you read them? Gohan asked eagerly. Naruto studied the symbols, his expression growing increasingly thoughtful. Partially. This dialect predates standardized shinobi script by thousands of years. It's similar to what the Otsutsuki used before, re-establishing chakra systems on inhabited worlds. His finger traced certain recurring patterns. This speaks of golden guardians, who fell from heaven to protect the children of Earth from pale harvesters. A creation myth, perhaps, but one that aligns with what we know of Otsutsuki invasion patterns. Videl moved beside him, her newly awakened senses allowing her to perceive subtle chakra resonance in the stone images themselves. These tablets still hold energy, even in photographs. You can sense that? Naruto asked, impressed by her rapid adaptation. She nodded. It's faint, but there's a signature. Like an echo of whoever created them. Your sensory abilities are developing rapidly, Naruto noted with approval. Most shinobi require years of training to detect residual chakra impressions. From her position against the console, 18 spoke up, her tone neutral yet underlaid with unmistakable interest. These golden guardians, they were like you. Naruto turned toward the android, studying her with perception that saw beyond her artificial components to the human essence beneath. Perhaps ancestors of what I became. The timing would align with the era of Kagai's initial defeat by her sons Hagoromo and Hamura, the original sage of six paths and his brother. Then we need to see these tablets firsthand, Bulma decided. I can have an expedition assembled by tomorrow. The facility where they're stored has been inactive for decades, some private collection owned by an eccentric archaeologist named Renzo. I'll go, Videl volunteered immediately. My new abilities might help identify other chakra signatures or hidden inscriptions. I should accompany you, Naruto added. If these tablets truly originate from my dimension, they may contain information crucial to understanding the connection between our worlds. Surprisingly, 18 straightened from her relaxed position against the console. I'll join as well. My scanning capabilities can detect structural anomalies and energy patterns beyond normal perception range. Bulma raised an eyebrow at the android's uncharacteristic volunteering but nodded agreement. Perfect. I'll arrange transportation and clearances. She turned to Gohan. Can you continue analyzing the genetic markers? Focus particularly on mapping potential expression patterns in different population groups. The half-Saiyan nodded. I'll coordinate with the genetics lab. This could revolutionize our understanding of Earth's evolutionary history. One more thing, Naruto interjected, his expression growing serious. Tenji's final words concerned me. He claimed, the connection has already been established, and that I can't undo what's begun. I believe he may have initiated some process during the battle, something separate from the dimensional tiers we sealed. Vegeta's scowl deepened. Another threat, possibly, Naruto acknowledged. The Otsutsuki rarely act without multiple contingencies. Tenji may have planted something, a seed or catalyst, designed to continue his work even after his defeat. All the more reason to investigate these ruins quickly, Bulma concluded. If they contain information about previous Otsutsuki incursions, they might provide insight into whatever Tenji set in motion. As the meeting dispersed, Naruto found himself approached by Android 18, her movements deliberately urged to appear casual despite the intentionality behind them. You said you've lived for centuries, she stated rather than asked, her voice carefully modulated to neutrality. Naruto nodded, curious about her approach. Over 1,000 years in my original form, and several centuries more in my transcendent state. Does it get easier? She asked, a flicker of something vulnerable crossing her perfect features before disappearing behind her composed mask. Watching them age while you remain unchanged. Understanding dawned in his ancient eyes, this artificial being with her ageless body ed the same prospect of outliving everyone she cared for. Krillin, her daughter Marin, all mortal while she remained pristine through decades. Not easier, he answered honestly, respecting her enough to offer truth rather than comfort. But you develop perspective. You learn to value the journey rather than fear its end. To appreciate each moment rather than dread the inevitable. Her ice blue eyes studied him with analytical precision, searching for platitudes or condescension and finding neither. Most people can't understand what it's like, watching time affect everyone but yourself. It's a unique burden, Naruto agreed. One that either breaks you or transforms you. I've experienced both at different points in my existence. Something unspoken passed between them, a recognition of shared experience that transcended their profound differences. After a moment, 18 nodded once, acknowledgement and perhaps gratitude in the simple gesture, before turning away to discuss expedition logistics with Bulma. Videl, who had observed the exchange from nearby, approached as 18 departed. She doesn't connect easily with people, she noted quietly. Krillin is practically the only one who truly understands her. Immortality creates a unique isolation, Naruto replied. Even surrounded by others, you stand apart, experiencing time differently, perceiving life differently. It creates a hunger for understanding that most cannot provide. His gaze followed the android thoughtfully. She's neither machine nor human, yet somehow both, existing at the intersection of contradictory natures. I understand such duality better than most. Videl studied him with new insight. The boy who contained a demon, became a leader, then transcended humanity entirely. Always between worlds. ASM. Il touched his lips, genuine appreciation for her perceptiveness. Precisely. Now, shall we prepare for tomorrow's expedition? You'll need some basic chakra control training before we leave. Will I be able to do that? Videl asked, gesturing toward the vanishing remnants of his memory projection from their rooftop conversation. Eventually, Naruto confirmed. But first, we start with fundamentals. The leaf exercise hasn't failed a genin in 1,000 years, it remains the perfect beginning. As they left the laboratory, neither noticed Vegeta's thoughtful gaze following their departure. Saiyan Prince's mind working through implications that concerned him far more than he would openly admit. Afternoon sunlight filtered through the canopy of trees in the Capsule Corporation's biosphere, an enclosed ecosystem containing multiple environmental zones for testing survival equipment. Naruto had chosen the forest section for Videl's first formal training session, the familiar environment reminiscent of Konoha's training grounds where countless generations of shinobi had learned similar lessons. Videl sat cross-legged on a flat boulder, her expression a study in concentration. As a simple green leaf balanced on her forehead. Despite the apparent simplicity of the exercise, beads of sweat trickled down her temples as she struggled to channel precise amounts of chakra to maintain the leaf's position. Too much again, Naruto observed calmly as the leaf suddenly shot upward, propelled by an excess burst of energy. You're approaching chakra with Ki's intensity. They're fundamentally different. Ki responds to emotional intensity and physical exertion. Chakra requires precise control and spiritual balance. Catching the falling leaf, Videl sighed in frustration. This would be easier if I didn't already have muscle memory for energy manipulation. My body keeps defaulting to Ki channeling. Which is why this exercise is perfect for you, Naruto explained, plucking another leaf from a nearby branch. Your Ki control is exceptional, refined through years of training. Now you must develop equally precise chakra control, but through different pathways. He demonstrated, placing the leaf against his forehead where it adhered perfectly, requiring no visible effort to maintain position. Feel the difference between pushing energy outward, as with Ki, versus creatin. Ga balanced attraction that neither repels nor absorbs. Videl took the fresh leaf, closing her eyes to better sense the subtle energy flows within her body. Unlike her previous attempts, she tried, visualizing the dual nature of her new power, the familiar blue currents of Ki flowing alongside the golden streams of chakra, distinct yet interconnected. That's it, Naruto encouraged, sensing the shift in her approach. Don't try to separate them completely, they're integrated within you now. Instead, learn their distinct resonances. The leaf adhered to Videl's forehead, wavering slightly but maintaining position. Her eyes remained closed, expression serene as she explored the sensation of chakra circulation, so different from Ki's dynamic flows, yet complementary in unexpected ways. I can feel the difference, she murmured, maintaining her meditation. Ki moves like water, flowing, adapting, responding to direction. Chakra feels more like threads, patterns that can be woven and shaped. Naruto nodded approval, an apt description. Ki is primarily responsive, amplifying your natural capabilities. Chakra is transformative, allowing manipulation of elements and reality itself through specific patterns. Videl maintained the exercise for several minutes, her control steadying as she adapted to the new energy system. When she finally opened her eyes, the leaf remained perfectly positioned, her first successful chakra exercise. Excellent progress, Naruto praised, genuine appreciation in his voice. You're adapting faster than any student I've taught. I've had good teachers before, Videl acknowledged, carefully removing the leaf and studying it with new perception, seeing the minute traces of her chakra signature imprinted on its surface. Gohan taught me to fly and control Ki. My father, for all his faults, instilled fundamental fighting discipline. She rose from the boulder, stretching muscles that had tensed during the prolonged concentration. What's next? Chakra circulation, Naruto replied, moving to stand beside a tall pine tree. In my world, the next step after leaf adherence was tree climbing without hands, using chakra to adhere to vertical surfaces. He demonstrated, walking casually up the tree trunk until he stood horizontal to the ground, attached solely through chakra channeled through his feet. The principle is similar to the leaf exercise, but requires maintaining consistent chakra output while in motion. Videl studied his position with analytical precision, the hallmark of an experienced martial artist evaluating a new technique. Without hesitation, she approached a neighboring tree, placed one foot against the trunk, and channeled chakra as she had with the leaf. Her first step held perfectly. The second wavered. On the third, excessive chakra exploded outward, blasting a small crater in the bark and sending her tumbling backward. Naruto caught her effortlessly before she hit the ground, his movement so swift it appeared instantaneous. Too much power, he noted, setting her on her feet. A common mistake for those with high energy reserves. Undeterred, Videl approached the tree again. Show me once more how the energy should flow. Naruto placed his hand against the trunk, adjusting his chakra output to make the energy visible to her enhanced perception. Observe the consistency, neither pushing nor pulling, but creating adhesion through balanced pressure. For the next hour, Videl practiced relentlessly, each attempt bringing incremental improvement. While she didn't achieve the casual mastery Naruto demonstrated, by session's end she could walk halfway up the trunk before losing control, remarkable progress for her first day of training. Enough for today, Naruto finally declared, noting the subtle signs of chakra exhaustion beginning to manifest, slightly labored breathing, minute tremors in her hands. Your chakra network is still developing. Pushing too far too quickly could damage the pathways. Though clearly reluctant to stop, Videl nodded acceptance of his expertise. As they walked toward the biosphere exit, she asked, how does my progress compare to shinobi in your world? Exceptional, Naruto answered honestly. Children in shinobi clans typically began training at 5 or 6, developing basic control through years of foundational exercises. You've accomplished in who's what would take average students weeks. Pride flickered across her features, not vanity, but the justified satisfaction of a dedicated martial artist. The result of having two energy systems to compare and contrast, perhaps. plus decades of key control to build upon. That, and natural talent, Naruto added. The genetic compatibility Bulma identified likely plays a role as well. Your body a CCEPTS chakra, as if remembering something forgotten rather than learning something new. They emerged from the biosphere into the main Capsule Corp complex, where they found Android 18 waiting with uncharacteristic patience. Leaning against the corridor wall with arms crossed. Expedition preparations are complete, she informed them without preamble. Departure scheduled for 0600 tomorrow. Dr. Briefs wants final briefing in the conference room now. Her icy blue eyes lingered on Naruto longer than strictly necessary, a subtle scanning motion suggesting her artificial senses were analyzing something about his energy signature. You've been showing her chakra techniques. It wasn't a question, but Naruto nodded confirmation anyway. Basic control exercises. Videl has remarkable aptitude. Something flickered across 18's perfect features. Curiosity, perhaps, or speculation. Could others learn these techniques? Those without genetic predisposition? Potentially, Naruto replied, intrigued by her interest. In my world, chakra became universal after Kagaya's arrival, though aptitude varied greatly between individuals and clans. Here, with Ki as the dominant energy system, the integration would be more challenging, but not impossible with the right approach. The android absorbed this information with inscrutable calculation before turning abruptly. Conference room. 5 minutes. She walked away with mechanical precision, her posture revealing nothing of her thoughts. Once she was out of earshot, Videl commented quietly, she's interested in your abilities. That's unusual for her. She recognizes parallel experiences, Naruto replied thoughtfully. We both exist outside normal human limitations, yet retain human connections and emotions. It creates a unique perspective, one she likely shares with few others. They followed 18's path toward the conference room, their conversation shifting to practical matters regarding the expedition. Yet Naruto filed away the android's interest, recognizing in her carefully maintained neutrality something he had seen countless times before, the cautious approach of someone who had learned that connection brings both opportunity and vulnerability. The Arctic facility housing Renzo's collection loomed against the pre-dawn darkness like a monolithic sentinel, stark white walls nearly invisible against snow-covered mountains. Its isolation emphasizing the eccentric archaeologist's desire for privacy. The structure itself defied conventional architecture, geometric forms stacked at seemingly impossible angles, supported by technology decades ahead of its time when constructed 50 years earlier. Bulma's private aircraft settled onto the landing pad with barely a whisper, its advanced propulsion systems negating the need for conventional runways. As the entry ramp descended, frigid air rushed into the cabin, bringing with it the scent of pristine ice and ancient stone. Ambient temperature -15°C, 18 reported unnecessarily. Her sensors automatically analyzing environmental conditions. Structure appears powered but minimally staffed based on heat signatures. Videl zipped her specialized Capsule Corp parka, designed to provide maximum warmth without restricting movement. Bulma mentioned the Foundation maintaining the collection operates with skeletal crew during winter months. Naruto stepped onto the ramp, his traditional orange and black attire seemingly insufficient against the Arctic cold. Yet the air around him shimmered slightly with chakra, creating a thermal barrier that rendered external temperature irrelevant. Convenient, 18 noted, observing his adaptation with analytical interest. Your energy naturally regulates environmental extremes. A basic application of nature transformation. Naruto explained as they descended toward the reception committee, two bundled figures waiting beside the facility entrance. Converting chakra to heat or cold as needed. As they approached, one of the waiting figures stepped forward, lowering her hood to reveal striking features, high cheekbones, copper skin, and intelligent eyes set in a face framed by thick black hair streaked with premature silver. She appeared to be in her mid-30s, with the weathered quality of someone who spent significant time in harsh conditions. Dr. Kazoo Briefs, she introduced herself with a slight bow. Bulma's cousin and current curator of the Renzo collection. Welcome to Polaris Point. Videl returned the bow, making introductions as Bulma had instructed. Videl Satan. These are my associates, 18 and Naruto Uzumaki. Dr. Briefs mentioned you're the leading expert on these artifacts. Kazu's scholarly gaze assessed each of them with quick precision before lingering on Naruto with undisguised curiosity. Yes, though, expert, may be generous considering how little we understand about them. Bulma's message mentioned you might provide insight into their origin. That's our hope, Videl confirmed diplomatically. The second figure, a stocky man with a full beard and laboratory attire beneath his thermal gear, stepped forward. Dr. Vance Miyagi, resident archaeologist. The tablets are prepared for your examination in the primary chamber. As they entered the facility, Naruto extended his senses beyond physical perception, immediately detecting something that others could not: faint traces of familiar energy permeating the structure itself. Not merely contained within artifacts, but infused into the very foundation upon which the building stood. This entire site is significant, he stated quietly to Videl as they followed their hosts through sterile white corridors. Not just the tablets. The facility was built here specifically because of what lies beneath it. Videl, her own senses enhanced though less developed than Naruto's, concentrated on the subtle energy signatures. You're right, there's something resonating below us. Like a heartbeat, but incredibly slow. Dr. Kazu, walking ahead with 18, glanced back at their exchange with sharp interest. You sense it too. The rhythmic energy pattern Renzo built here 60 years ago after His instruments detected what he called dimensional harmonics, emanating from deep beneath the ice. This revelation immediately captured everyone's attention. 18's eyes narrowed with calculation why. Naruto's expression became increasingly thoughtful. These harmonics, were they recorded? Measured? 18 inquired, her tone suggesting casual interest despite the intensity of her focus. Extensively, Kazu confirmed as they approached a massive vault door at the corridor's end. Renzo devoted his fortune to studying them. The tablets were discovered later, during Foundation excavation. Dr. Miyagi placed his palm against a scanner beside the vault, causing massive gears to engage with hydraulic precision. What you're about to see represents the most significant unexplained archaeological discovery of the past century, one kept deliberately from public knowledge due to its unconventional nature. The vault doors parted to reveal a chamber that defied expectations, not the sterile laboratory they anticipated, but a space designed to mimic natural cave formations. Artificial lighting simulated sunlight filtering through crystalline structures, illuminating stone tablets arranged in a perfect circle around a central platform. But what immediately captured Naruto's attention wasn't the tablets themselves, but what rested upon the central pedestal, a small spherical object approximately 20 centimeters in diameter, composed of material that appeared simultaneously metallic and organic. Its surface was covered in familiar script, glowing with subtle pulses of energy that matched the rhythmic sensation they had detected throughout the facility. The Nexus Sphere, Drive, Kazu announced with reverent precision. The primary artifact around which everything else was arranged when discovered. The tablets appear to describe its purpose, though we've never deciphered more than fragments of the text. Naruto approached the sphere slowly, ancient recognition dawning in his eyes. This is Otsutsuki technology, a dimensional anchor point. Similar devices were used in my world to stabilize pathways between realms. Dr. Miyagi's academic composure momentarily faltered. You recognize it. You know what this is. More importantly, I know who created it, Naruto confirmed, circling the pedestal without touching the sphere. This bears the hallmarks of Hamura Otsutsuki's craftsmanship, brother to the Sage of Six Paths. He specialized in dimensional equilibrium technologies while Hagoromo focused on chakra distribution systems. Videl joined him beside the sphere, her enhanced perception detecting subtle energy flows within the artifact. It's still active after all this time. Dormant but functional, Naruto corrected, indicating script patterns along the equatorial band. These are activation protocols, currently in standby configuration. The energy we're sensing is maintenance level output. 18 approached from the opposite side, her artificial sensor analyzing the object with technological precision. It contains materials not found on Earth's periodic table, and the energy signature matches residual patterns from the dimensional tiers during yesterday's battle. Dr. Kazu watched their examination with mounting excitement barely contained beneath scholarly reserve. You actually understand what this is. Decades of research, and the most Vei determined is that it predates any known Earth civilization by thousands of years. Because it isn't from Earth, Naruto explained, turning his attention to the surrounding tablets. At least, not originally. This technology comes from my dimension, specifically, from the era following Kagaya Otsutsuki's initial defeat, approximately 10,000 years ago in my world's timeline. He moved to examine the stone tablets, which stood approximately 2 meters tall and 1 meter wide, covered in dense script interspersed with pictographic representations. Unlike modern museum displays, these remained exactly as discovered, partially embedded in the cave floor, arranged in perfect symmetry around the central sphere. These tell a story, Naruto murmured, tracing symbols with fingers that glowed faintly as his chakra resonated with the ancient script, a historical account rather than mere mythology. The others gathered around as he began translating sections of the nearest tablet, millennia of experience allowing him to decipher the proto-language with remarkable facility. When the pale harvesters came to consume the fruit of our world, the golden sage and his brother defeated their mother, the rabbit goddess. Naruto's voice took on a cadence similar to when he had shared his memories with Videl. But her children beyond the stars would seek vengeance, so the lunar sage created pathways to distant realms where worthy guardians might be sheltered. He moved to the next tablet, continuing the translation. The strongest were sent across dimensions, carrying seeds of the great power. To establish bloodlines that might one day stand against the harvesters, return. The sphere maintains balance between realms, allowing passage when need arises while preventing unauthorized invasion. Dr. Kazu recorded his translations with professional diligence despite her evident excitement. This confirms theories about external intervention in Earth's evolutionary story that academic circles have dismissed for decades. There's more, Naruto continued, moving methodically around the circle. Among the distant realms, one showed greatest promise, its native Fei force already similar to chakra yet developing along different pathways. Here, the guardians established themselves among the strongest native species, sharing their gifts and creating bloodlines of power. He paused at a tablet containing detailed illustrations, humanoid figures with tails transforming into larger, ape-like forms beneath a full moon. Beside these were depicted other figures handling visible energy through martial arts stances. Saiyans, Videl breathed, recognizing the great ape transformation. And human martial artists channeling ki. The guardian bloodlines flourished. Naruto translated from adjacent text, taking different forms according to native evolution. Some developed transformation abilities tied to celestial bodies, others internal energy mastery, others enhanced physical capabilities. All retained the seed of original power, dormant until awakening became necessary. 18, who had been silently analyzing both artifacts and translations, spoke with uncharacteristic intensity. These guardians, from your dimension deliberately influenced Saiyan and human evolution, creating genetic potential that would remain dormant until needed. A contingency spanning millennia, Naruto confirmed, moving to what appeared to be the final tablet in the sequence. And one that explains the compatibility we've discovered, why certain individuals in this dimension resonate with chakra despite evolving with ki as their primary energy system. The final tablet contained the most elaborate illustrations, depicting a golden figure with distinctive eyes facing pale, horned adversaries. Below this scene were shown diverse groups of humans and Saiyan-like beings channeling dual energies, both ki and chakra represented through different symbolic patterns. When dimensions align and harvesters return, the dormant power will awaken, Naruto translated, his voice growing solemn. The progenitor will emerge, uniting ancient powers to create a new blue D-line capable of transcending dimensional boundaries. Thus will both realms be preserved against those who would consume worlds. Silence fell over the chamber as the implications of this translation settled among them. It was Videl who finally spoke, her voice steady despite the weight of realization. The progenitor. It mentions, that's you, isn't it? The one who would awaken the dormant abilities and create a new bloodline. Naruto's ancient eyes met hers, recognition of shared destiny passing between them. Not me specifically. The tablets predate my birth by thousands of years. But someone like me, a chakra user with transcendent abilities arriving during a dimensional incursion. And the new bloodline would be what's happening with Videl, 18 concluded with analytical precision. The activation of dormant chakra potential within individuals already possessing key mastery. Dr. Kazu's scientific excitement had transformed into something more profound, awareness of witnessing history beyond conventional understanding. This changes everything we thought we knew about human evolution, about Saiyan origins, about the very nature of our world's energy systems. It also explains what Tenji meant with his final words, Naruto added grimly. The connection he mentioned, it wasn't something he created, but something he triggered. My arrival, the dimensional tears, his attack, all served to activate this dormant system that's been waiting millennia for precisely such a catalyst. He gestured toward Videl. Her transformation is just the beginning. Others with compatible genetics will likely start manifesting similar abilities, especially those already skilled in key manipulation or with direct bloodline connections to the original guardians mentioned here. Dr. Miyagi, who had been documenting everything with scientific diligence, looked up from his notes. Are you suggesting a widespread genetic activation? A new evolutionary step for certain Earth populations? Potentially, Naruto confirmed, though the extent remains unclear. The tablets suggest selective awakening rather than universal transformation, individuals with specific genetic markers and suitable energy control. 18's cool gaze remained fixed on the sphere. The question becomes, what triggered this now? These artifacts have been dormant for thousands of years. Why activate at this specific moment? Dimensional alignment, Naruto suggested, indicating cyclical patterns inscribed along the sphere's surface. The tablets mention realms aligning as a precondition. Perhaps our dimensions move through cycles of proximity, becoming accessible to each other at specific intervals. Which Tenji exploited, Videl concluded. He didn't create the connection, he merely took advantage of a natural alignment to cross over. Naruto nodded, and in doing so, inadvertently fulfilled the conditions described here, a dimensional incursion by harvesters, prompting defensive activation of dormant potentials. A thoughtful expression crossed drive Kazu's features. If these guardians from your dimension influenced our evolution thousands of years ago, creating these dormant potentials, would their descendants still exist? Individuals with more direct bloodline connections to your world. The question hung in the air as Naruto considered its implications. It's possible. 10,000 years represents hundreds of generations. Any direct lineage would be significantly diluted. But certain families or isolated populations might retain stronger connections. Like the Saiyans, Videl suggested. Their unique abilities and transformation potential could indicate a more direct lineage. Or certain human martial arts dynasties, drive. Miyagi added, warming to the theory. Remote monasteries and training grounds where techniques resembling chakra manipulation have been practiced for centuries, often described as mystical, rather than key-based. As they discussed these possibilities, 18 had moved to examine the sphere more closely, her artificial eyes detecting patterns invisible to human perception. There's a rhythmic fluctuation in the artifact's energy output, she reported. Increasing in both frequency and amplitude since we entered the chamber. This observation immediately refocused everyone's attention. Naruto stepped beside her, extending his senses toward the sphere. You're right, it's responding to our presence, specifically to the activated chakra signatures. Without warning, the sphere's pulsing intensified, golden light emanating from script patterns across its surface. The ground beneath them trembled slightly as energy began flowing visibly between the sphere and the surrounding tablets. It's activating, Naruto warned, instantly assessing potential threats. Everyone stepped back from the central platform. They retreated toward the chamber entrance as the sphere rose from its pedestal, hovering in midair while rotating with increasing speed. Light projected outward in geometric patterns, forming what appeared to be a three-dimensional map of interconnected realms, countless worlds represented by luminous nodes connected by threads of energy. A dimensional navigation system, Naruto breathed, recognition dawning in his ancient eyes. Hamura created these to map pathways between realms, showing safe routes and dangerous convergences. The projection focused on two specific nodes, larger than the others and connected by a pulsing golden thread that grew increasingly bright. Text appeared beside each node in the same proto-language as the tablets. Realm of Chakra, and realm of Ki, Naruto translated. Our respective dimensions. The connection between them is strengthening, exactly as the tablets predicted during alignment periods. Dr. Kazu stared at the projection with academic wonder temporarily overwhelming scientific caution. It's showing us the dimensional relationship in real time. Extraordinary. More than that, Naruto replied, his expression growing concerned as additional patterns emerged within the projection. It's showing convergence points, locations where the dimensional boundary is thinnest. Red markers appeared at specific points along the golden thread connecting the two primary nodes, each accompanied by time designations in the ancient script. Potential incursion points, Naruto explained grimly. Places and times where crossing between dimensions requires minimal energy, where threats could emerge with relative ease. 18's analytical mind immediately grasped the strategic implications. It's showing us where additional invaders like Tenji might appear. And when, Videl added, noting the time designations. Can you translate those? Naruto studied the markers carefully. They use an ancient celestial calendar. But converting to modern timekeeping, the first convergence point is approximately 3 days from now. The location corresponds to coordinates in your north hemisphere, what you call Yunzabit Heights. Dr. Miyagi's expression reflected appropriate alarm. Are you saying another dimensional incursion will occur there in 3 days? Not necessarily an incursion, Naruto clarified, but a point where the barrier between dimensions will be significantly weakened, creating opportunity for crossing in either direction. The sphere's rotation gradually slowed, the projection maintaining steady illumination as if awaiting response or instruction. Naruto approached cautiously, recognizing control patterns within the displayed script. This device was created for dimensional guardians, he explained, gesturing toward specific symbols. It's waiting for authentication, recognition from someone with appropriate chakra signature. Can you provide that? Dr. Kazu asked, scientific curiosity momentarily overshadowing potential dangers. Naruto nodded, raising his hand toward the sphere without quite touching it. My 6 paths chakra should be sufficient. It derives from the same source as Himura's power. Golden energy extended from his palm, connecting with the sphere in streams of light that formed complex sealing patterns in midair. The artifact responded immediately, its rotation changing direction as new script appeared within the projection. Guardian recognized, Naruto translated. Dimensional protocols accessible, awaiting instruction. It's accepting your authority, 18 observed. What instructions can it receive? Various dimensional maintenance functions, Naruto replied, studying the newly revealed control systems. Monitoring incursion points, strengthening barriers at vulnerable locations, possibly even facilitating controlled travel between connected realms. His expression became thoughtful as he considered implications. This device explains how the Guardians, mentioned in the tablets, established themselves in this dimension thousands of years ago, and how they maintained connection with their origin world. Can it close the connection completely? Videl asked practically. Prevent further incursions like Tenji. Naruto shook his head after examining the control patterns. Not designed for that purpose. These systems were created to maintain controlled connection, not sever it entirely. Remember, the original Guardians wanted to preserve pathways they could use when needed. So we left with managing the connection rather than eliminating it, 18 concluded. Monitoring these convergence points and preparing appropriate responses. Precisely, Naruto confirmed. Though with the sphere active, we gain significant advantage. Advance warning of when and where dimensional thinning will occur. He continued studying the projection, accessing deeper levels of information through his chakra connection. Additional data appeared. Historical records of previous alignment cycles, detailed mapping of dimensional currents, even biological information regarding compatible species across connected realms. This confirms everything, he said finally, indicating data streams flowing across the projection. The Guardians were indeed Otsutsuki defectors, followers of Hamura who ejected their clan's world-consuming practices. They established themselves in this dimension during the previous alignment cycle, approximately 12,000 years ago by your calendar. Around T. He time of Earth's last major extinction event, Drive. Miyagi noted with academic precision. Long theorized to have evolutionary significance beyond conventional understanding. Naruto nodded. They NTE graded with promising native species, primarily early humans and Proto-Saiyans, creating hybrid bloodlines with dormant chakra potential while adapting to this dimension's dominant key energy system. The projection shifted to display genetic information, DNA structures showing specific marker sequences that Bulma had independently identified in her laboratory analysis. The compatibility Tenji mentioned wasn't coincidental. Naruto continued. It was deliberately engineered, a long-term strategy to create beings capable of wielding both energy systems as defense against future Otsutsuki incursions. And the progenitor, mentioned in the tablets, Videl added, making connections rapidly. Someone who would activate this dormant potential when dimensions realigned, creating a new, dual-energy bloodline. Dr. Kazu's expression reflected the profound implications. You've become the catalyst for an evolutionary leap planned millennia ago, awakening abilities that have remained dormant for countless generations. Before Naruto could respond, the sphere's energy pattern suddenly shifted, pulsing with increased intensity as a warning sequence appeared within the projection. Red symbols flashed around one of the convergence points previously identified. Something's happening, Naruto translated urgently. Unauthorized dimensional transit detected, occurring now rather than at the predicted convergence time. The projection zoomed to show a location familiar to the Earth natives, a remote island region in the southern hemisphere. Energy signatures appeared as swirling distortions, indicating dimensional barrier deterioration. That's near Papaya Island, Videl identified immediately. Site of the World Martial Arts Tournament Arena. Someone's forcing a crossing, Naruto explained. Reading the sphere's warnings. Using extreme energy to puncture dimensional barriers outside natural convergence points. 18 was already activating her communication device. I'll alert Capsule Corp and the others. Coordinates. Quote. As she relayed precise location data to Bulma, Naruto continued analyzing the sphere's information, his expression growing increasingly concerned. The energy signature, he began. Recognition dawning in his ancient eyes. What about it? Videl pressed, already preparing mentally for potential combat. It's Otsutsuki, but not Tenji, Naruto explained grimly. Different resonance pattern, higher power density. I believe someone far more dangerous is attempting to cross over. How much more dangerous? Dr. Miyagi asked, his academic detachment faltering before practical concerns. Naruto's response was measured but unflinching. If I'm reading this correctly, we may be dealing with Kinshiki Otsutsuki, one of the clan's elite warriors. A Harv, stir of worlds who possesses power that rivals the original 10 Tails. The implications settled heavily upon them as 18 completed her communication with Capsule Corp. Reinforcements mobilizing, she reported with artificial calm. Goku and Vegeta are en route to the coordinates. Bulma suggests we proceed there immediately with transport capsules she provided. Naruto turned from the sphere, WH. It continued displaying warning signals about the developing incursion. The dimensional barrier is still holding, but weakening rapidly. We have perhaps 30 minutes before breakthrough occurs. Then we should move now. Videl declared decisively. Dr. Briefs. Drive. Miyagi, can you continue analyzing the sphere's data while we address this threat? Dr. Kazu nodded firmly. We'll extract everything possible and transmit findings directly to Bulma. The facility's communication systems can maintain connection even during dimensional disturbances. One moment, Naruto said, turning back to the sphere. With precise chakra application, he activated specific control patterns within the projection. I'm programming the sphere to strengthen surrounding dimensional barriers. It can't prevent the current incursion attempt, but might delay additional breaches. As he completed this task, the projection shifted to standby mode, maintaining essential monitoring while reducing energy output. He will continue tracking dimensional stability and alert your systems to any significant changes. With preparations complete, they moved swiftly toward the exit drive. Kazu providing transport capsules from Bulma's supply. Outside the facility, against the stark Arctic landscape, Naruto turned to Videl and 18 with the gravity appropriate to their situation. If Kinshiki is truly coming through, this will be significantly more dangerous than yesterday's confrontation with Tenji, he warned. We'll need coordinated strategy between your world's defenders and my abilities. You've faced this Kinshiki before, 18 inquired, her tactical systems already analyzing potential scenarios. Not personally, Naruto admitted. But I've studied historical records of his previous harvesting expeditions in neighboring dimensions. He's a weapon specialist, capable of manifesting energy constructs of immense destructive potential. Videl activated her transport capsule, which expanded instantly into an aerodynamic aircraft designed for supersonic travel. Then we'll need to combine our knowledge with your experience. The others will meet us there. As they boarded the vehicle, Naruto felt a familiar sensation. The anticipation before conflict that had accompanied his existence for centuries, yet now carried new significance. For the first time in memory, he wasn't fighting alone as a solitary guardian moving between dimensions. He was defending a world alongside allies who might become something more, companions, friends, perhaps even family in some form he had long abandoned hope of experiencing again. The woman beside him, already manifesting dual energies with remarkable adaptation, represented possibilities beyond tactical advantage. The aircraft accelerated into the sky, leaving the ancient facility behind as they raced toward a confrontation millennia in the making, one that would further catalyze the evolutionary leap already set in motion by forces that had planned across dimensions and generations for precisely this moment. Chapter 2 End Chapter 3, Bloodlines Awakened. The dimensional rift manifesting above Papaya Island resembled a wound in reality itself, jagged DGES of purple-tinged energy tearing through the fabric of normal space. Unlike Tenji's controlled entrance the previous day, this breach radiated chaotic power, sending electromagnetic pulses that disabled electronics for kilometers in every direction. Beneath the growing anomaly, inhabitants of the small island community stared skyward in confused terror, many already fleeing toward the harbor. FTER experiences with previous world-threatening events had taught them when to run. Naruto stood on the aircraft's open ramp, golden chakra flaring around him as he analyzed the dimensional distortion through his Rinnegan. The rift's energy signature confirmed his worst fears. Kinshiki Otsutsuki was indeed forcing his way through, using brute power rather than precision to create a passage between dimensions. His approach lacks finesse, Naruto observed to Videl and 18, who flanked him at the edge of the ramp. Tenji utilized existing weak points in the dimensional barrier. Kinshiki is simply hammering through with raw power. Less sophisticated but potentially more dangerous. 18 inquired, her analytical systems already calculating energy outputs visible from the rift. Naruto nodded. Tenji was a strategist. Kinshiki is a warrior, the clan's equivalent of a berserker. What he lacks in subtlety, he compensates for with overwhelming destructive capacity. The aircraft circled the disturbance at a cautious distance, buffeted by energy waves radiating from the tier. Through the cockpit window, they could see two figures approaching rapidly from the north, Goku and Vegeta, their Elden Super Saiyan auras blazing against the clear sky. They've arrived, Videl noted with visible relief. We'll need their power if this Kinshiki is as strong as you say. Before Naruto could respond, the dimensional rift expanded dramatically, its diameter doubling in seconds as something massive began pushing through from the other side. The air itself seemed to scream in protest as reality was forcibly stretched beyond natural limits. It's happening, Naruto warned, gathering his chakra in preparation. Everyone, prepare for immediate engagement. The rift finally tore completely open, and through it emerged a towering figure that defied conventional physical description. Kinshiki Otsutsuki stood nearly 3 meters tall, his massive frame covered in traditional white garments similar to Tenji's but adorned with red symbols denoting his warrior status. His pale skin bore red markings across his face, and 2 massive horns protruded from his forehead, curving upward like a bull's. Most striking were his eyes, pure white with faint concentric patterns visible only when caught in certain light. He emerged fully from the rift, hovering in midair as he surveyed the world below with cold calculation. Unlike Tenji's dramatic entrance and immediate attack, Kinshiki remained silent, methodically assessing his surroundings with the patience of an experienced predator. Something's wrong, Naruto murmured, his ancient eyes narrowing. He should have a partner. Otsutsuki warriors of his rank never hunt alone. As if in answer to this observation, a second figure materialized. Through the rift, smaller than Kinshiki but radiating even greater power. This newcomer appeared more humanoid, with delicate features that belied the immense energy contained within his slender form. A single horn protruded from his right temple, and his white hair was pulled back in a high ponytail. His clothing, though similar in style to Kinshiki's, bore more elaborate patterns indicating higher status. Momoshiki. Naruto breathed, genuine concern evident in his voice. This is worse than I anticipated. He's Kinshiki's superior, an Otsutsuki noble with abilities far beyond ordinary harvesting operations. The pair hovered before the closing rift, conferring briefly in a language that sounded like liquid crystal, beautiful yet utterly alien. Then Momoshiki raised a delicate hand, upon which was embedded a red rinnegan not unlike Naruto's own purple variant. With this gesture, the rift sealed behind them, collapsing with a thunderclap that shook the island below. Their first priority will be energy assessment, Naruto explained quickly, recognizing the methodical approach characteristic of Otsutsuki harvesting teams. They're scanning for the highest concentration of chakra A. ND key to determine optimal consumption targets. As predicted, Momoshiki produced a small scroll covered in elaborate seals, which projected a three-dimensional map of the surrounding area with energy Y signatures highlighted in varying intensities. His pale eyes widened slightly as 5 signatures in particular stood out: Naruto's golden chakra, the dual energy pattern emanating from Videl, and the approaching Super Saiyan auras of Goku, Vegeta, and now a third figure joining them. They've noticed us, 18 stated unnecessarily, her combat systems activating in preparation for engagement. And the others, Videl added, watching as Goku, Vegeta, and the third figure, now recognizable as Gohan in his ultimate form, altered course directly toward the Otsutsuki pair. Momoshiki's lips curved in what might have been amusement as he rolled up his scroll and exchanged words with Kinshiki. The larger Otsutsuki nodded once before extending his hand, within which materialized a massive battle axe composed of glowing red energy. Defensive positions, Naruto warned, immediately recognizing the weapon construct. Kinshiki's about to. Before he could complete the warning, Kinshiki swung his energy axe in a wide arc, releasing a crescent-shaped wave of destructive force that sliced through the air directly toward their aircraft. Naruto reacted instantly, hands forming seals faster than human eyes could track. Rakudo. Dimensional barrier, he called out, golden chakra exploding outward to form a translucent shield before the aircraft. The energy wave struck Naruto's barrier with cataclysmic force, the collision generating a shockwave that sent their aircraft tumbling despite the protection. 18 caught Videl before she could be thrown from the ramp, while Naruto maintained his posit. Ion threw chakra adhesion to the metal surface. Impact in 3 seconds. The android warned as they plummeted toward the ocean below. The pilot struggled with unresponsive controls as the elector magnetic interference from the dimensional rift had disabled most systems. Just as impact seemed inevitable, Naruto teleported to the cockpit, placing his hand against the instrument panel. Golden chakra flowed into the electronics, temporarily bypassing damaged circuits with pure energy manipulation. Pull up now, he instructed the pilot, who responded instantly to the momentarily restored controls. The aircraft leveled mere meters above the water surface, skimming waves before gradually regaining altitude. Through the viewports, they could see the 3 Saiyans engaging the Otsutsuki Pi are in aerial combat, golden auras clashing against pale red energy in spectacular fashion. We need to reach them, Videl insisted, steadying herself against a bulkhead as the aircraft stabilized. They don't understand what they're facing. Quote, Naruto nodded agreement. Kinshiki alone would challenge your strongest fighters. Together with Momoshiki, they present a threat beyond anything your dimension has encountered. What's their objective? 18 asked, her tactical analysis subroutines seeking strategic understanding. Resources, conquest, energy harvesting, Naruto explained grimly as they maneuvered toward the aerial battle. The Otsutsuki travel between dimensions consuming the energy of entire worlds, typically by absorbing the chakra or equivalent life force of the strongest beings. Then planting a divine tree that eventually drains the planet completely. The implications weren't lost on either woman. Videl's expression hardened with resolve while 18's artificial features settled into calculated determination. How do we stop them? Videl asked, the dual energy within her, chakra and ki, flaring in response to her emotions. We prevent them from establishing a foothold, Naruto replied. gathering his power in preparation for teleportation. And we do it together. Your world's fighters have the raw power, but lack experience with Otsutsuki techniques. I have the knowledge, but in this dimension, my chakra doesn't reach its full potential. 18 assessed the battle visible through the viewport. They're already engaging. Goku and Vegeta are attacking Kinshiki while Gohan faces Momoshiki. Then we need to join them, now. Naruto extended his hands to both women. I can teleport us directly into the battle zone. Be prepared for immediate combat engagement. Without hesitation, both Videl and 18 grasped his offered hands. Golden light enveloped them as Naruto's Flying Thunder God technique activated, and reality blurred momentarily before resolving into the heart of the aerial battlefield. They materialized directly between Gohan and Momoshiki, arriving just as the Otsutsuki noble was preparing to absorb an energy attack. Naruto immediately thrust his palm forward, golden chains erupting from his chakra to entangle Momoshiki's absorption technique. Uzumaki sealing chains, he called out, the adamantine restraints temporarily disrupting the Otsutsuki's absorption ability. Momoshiki's pale eyes widened in recognition. A Six Paths user. In this primitive dimension, his voice carried the aristocratic disdain characteristic of Otsutsuki nobility, yet underlying it was genuine surprise. Gohan, momentarily startled by their sudden appearance, recovered quickly. Videl, what are you doing here? This enemy is more dangerous than you realize, she completed his sentence. The subtle rings in her eyes becoming more pronounced as she channeled both ki and chakra simultaneously. They're dimensional harvesters called Otsutsuki. They consume worlds. Naruto maintained his sealing technique while addressing Gohan. Your attacks alone won't be effective. They can absorb conventional energy blasts. We need coordinated strategy. Before further explanation could be offered, Momoshiki broke free from the chakra chains with a pulse of red energy from his palm Rinnegan. Interesting, he commented, studying Naruto with increasing curiosity. You're not native to this realm, yet you defend it. Curious behavior for one who carries the Six Paths power. Nearby, Goku and Vegeta were engaging Kinshiki in close combat, their Super Saiyan forms, allowing them to match the massive Otsutsuki's strength temporarily. However, Naruto could see that Kinshiki was merely assessing their capabilities rather than fighting at full capacity. We need to separate them, Naruto advised, recognizing the standard Otsutsuki hunting strategy. Together, they amplify each other's abilities. Momoshiki can absorb energy attacks and redirect them with multiplied power. Kinshiki provides physical defense and weapon manifestation. 18 analyzed the battle dynamics within human processing speed. Logical approach. Goku and Vegeta continue engaging the larger one physically. Gohan, Videl and I target the smaller one with coordinated attacks that prevent absorption. You provide tactical support and sealing techniques. Precisely, Naruto confirmed, impressed by her strategic assessment. Avoid energy projections against Momoshiki unless his absorption ability is temporarily disrupted. Physical attacks or sealed techniques are more effective. Gohan nodded understanding, his scholarly mind quickly adapting to the tactical information. Dad, Vegeta, he called out to the other Saiyans. Focus on the big one. Physical attacks only. As the battle reorganized according to this strategy, Momoshiki's expression shifted from mild curiosity to calculating assessment. You understand our methods, he observed, addressing Naruto directly. Yet your chakra signature is peculiar. Not pure Otsutsuki, yet beyond ordinary human limitations. I've had experience with your kind, Naruto replied, hands already forming seals for his next technique. Kagaya, Tonari, Arashiki, and now you. The pattern is always the same. Parasitic consumption without regard for the life you destroy. Momoshiki's pale eyes narrowed at the familiar names. You speak of clan members long thought lost or fallen. Interesting. His gaze shifted to Videl, studying the unique dual energy signature emanating from her form. And you've created something unexpected in Is Realm, a hybrid energy system with fascinating potential. Without warning, he moved with blinding speed toward Videl, palm extended to extract her energy directly. 18 intercepted, her mechanical R.E. flexes allowing her to block the attempt with a cybernetically enhanced arm. Your composition is artificial, Momoshiki noted with mild surprise, leaping back to avoid 18's counter-strike. Yet your energy has organic components. Another curiosity of this dimension. Gohan used this distraction to launch a coordinated attack with Videl, their movements synchronized from years of occasional training together despite their separation. 18 joined from the opposite angle, creating a three-pronged assault that forced Momoshiki to defend rather than absorb. Meanwhile, Naruto flashed behind the Otsutsuki. A Rasengan already formed in his palm. "You talk too much," he stated flatly, driving the spiraling sphere toward Momoshiki's unprotected back. The Otsutsuki twisted with impossible flexibility, barely avoiding direct impact. Even so, the edge of the technique grazed his elaborate garments, shredding fabric and revealing pale skin beneath. "Insolence," Momoshiki hissed, genuine anger R.E.P. lacing his previous detached curiosity. With a gesture, he summoned Kinshiki to his side, the larger Otsutsuki disengaging from Goku and Vegeta with a massive energy pulse that temporarily stunned the Saiyan warriors. Standing back to back, the Otsutsuki pair began a synchronized technique, Kinshiki's red energy flowing into Momoshiki's palm Rinnegan, charging it with increased power. Recognizing the preparation for a devastating area attack, Naruto shouted warning to the others. "Defensive formation. They're preparing a dimensional shockwave." The Earth defenders gathered quickly around Naruto as he channeled Six Paths chakra into a protective dome. Goku and Vegeta added their ki to the barrier, while Gohan positioned himself protectively near Videl despite her newly acquired powers. Momoshiki completed his absorption of Kinshiki's energy, the red Rinnegan in his palm pulsating with dangerous intensity. With deliberate precision, he pointed toward their defensive formation. "Tenseigan. Dimensional rupture," he announced, his aristocratic voice carrying overtones of genuine power. The attack manifested as concentric rings of pale energy expanding outward at tremendous velocity, distorting space-time itself as they approached. When the rings struck Naruto's defensive barrier, reinforced by Saiyan Ki, reality itself seemed to warp around the point of impact. Inside the barrier, Naruto grunted with effort, golden chakra straining against the dimensional attack. "This is beyond standard Otsutsuki techniques," he warned through gritted teeth. "He's targeting the dimensional stability itself." Videl, acting on instinct guided by her newly awakened abilities, placed her hand against Naruto's back, channeling her unique dual energy into his defensive technique. The barrier responded immediately, golden blue light reinforcing the weakening points where Momoshiki's attack threatened breakthrough. The hybrid energy disrupts his dimensional manipulation, Naruto realized. Adaptation born of centuries of combat experience. "Everyone, channel your energy through Videl." The combined chakra ki resonance creates a frequency he can't easily penetrate. Understanding immediately, Goku placed his hand on Videl's shoulder, followed by Gohan, Vegeta, and finally 18, each contributing their unique energy signature to the collective defense. Through Videl's dual-natured system, these disparate powers harmonized into something entirely new, neither pure chakra nor conventional ki, but a synthesis that reinforced the dimensional stability Momoshiki was attempting to disrupt. The Otsutsuki's attack eventually dissipated against this unprecedented defense, leaving him floating before them with narrowed eyes and reassessing calculation. Unexpected adaptation, he acknowledged with reluctant respect. "This dimension harbors more potential than our preliminary scans indicated." His gaze fixed on Videl specifically. "Particularly this hybrid energy configuration you've developed." Kinshiki, having recovered from channeling energy to his master, manifested dual energy blades in preparation for renewed physical assault. However, Momoshiki raised a hand to stay his subordinate's advance. "A tactical reassessment is warranted," the Otsutsuki noble declared with aristocratic pragmatism. "This harvest requires additional preparation." Before any of them could move to prevent retreat, Momoshiki activated his palm Rinnegan, creating a smaller dimensional rift behind him. "We shall meet again," he promised, his gaze lingering on Naruto and Videl specifically. "Your unusual energies merit thorough investigation before consumption." With those ominous words, the Otsutsuki pair backed into the dimensional tear, which sealed immediately behind them, leaving the defenders hovering in stunned silence above the ocean. Goku was first to break the tension, his Super Saiyan form fading as he relaxed into his base state. "Well, that was interesting. They were pretty strong, weren't they?" Vegeta scoffed at the understatement, though he too powered down to conserve energy. "They retreated to regroup, not from defeat." The smaller one was merely assessing our capabilities. Vegeta's right, Naruto confirmed, his ancient eyes still fixed on the point where the dimensional rift had closed. Momoshiki was gathering intelligence rather than committing to full battle. What concerns me is his particular interest in the hybrid energy signature. All eyes turned to Videl, who stood with newfound confidence despite the exhaustion evident in her slightly trembling limbs. The channeling of multiple energy sources through her developing system had taxed her beyond normal limits. He seemed fascinated by what I've become, she noted, looking down at her hands where faint golden blue energy still shimmered beneath the skin. Because you represent something the Otsutsuki have always feared, Naruto explained, his voice carrying the weight of ancient understanding. Evolution beyond their control. The combination of chakra and ki creates an energy signature they can't easily absorb or counter, as we just witnessed. Gohan moved protectively toward his ex-wife. Scholarly analysis temporarily secondary to personal concern. Are you all right? That was an enormous amount of energy flowing through you. Videl nodded, though her exhaustion was evident. I'm fine. Just drained. It felt like being a conduit for a tsunami. We should return to Capsule Corp, 18 suggested with practical efficiency. Report what happened and prepare for their inevitable return. As they descended toward the waiting aircraft, now recovered from its system's failure, Naruto maintained vigilant awareness of the dimensional fabric surrounding them. Though the Otsutsuki had departed, their very presence had further weakened the barriers between realms, creating lingering instability that would take time to naturally rebalance. More concerning was Momoshiki's pacific interest in the hybrid energy system Videl now embodied. The Otsutsuki noble had recognized its potential significance immediately, understanding implications that even Naruto was only beginning to fully comprehend. The awakening had begun, and there would be no turning back. Fascinating. The energy readings are completely unprecedented. Bulma exclaimed, reviewing data collected during the Papaya Island confrontation. Holographic displays throughout her primary laboratory showed detailed analyses of the unique energy signature generated when Videl had channeled multiple power sources simultaneously. It's neither pure ki nor what you call chakra, but a harmonic resonance between them that creates something entirely new. The core defenders had gathered at Capsule Corporation following the battle, Goku, Vegeta, and Gohan joined by Piccolo and Krillin upon their return. Videl sat on an examination table, various sensors monitoring her recovering energy system while Naruto stood nearby. His ancient eyes thoughtful as he considered implications. The tablets at the Arctic facility referred to a new bloodline capable of transcending dimensional boundaries, he noted. Connecting recent events with the historical records they'd discovered. This appears to be the manifestation of that prophecy, energy that exists simultaneously in multiple dimensional frequencies. Is that why the pale guys retreated? Goku asked, characteristically simplifying complex concepts. Because Videl's new power hurt them somehow. Not hurt precisely, Naruto clarified, but disrupt their dimensional manipulation techniques. The Otsutsuki travel between realms by manipulating dimensional frequencies, essentially tuning to the specific resonance of their target world. Hybrid energy operating on multiple frequencies simultaneously creates interference patterns they can't easily navigate. Vegeta crossed his arms, his strategic mind processing tactical implications. So the woman has become a weapon against these invaders. Can this hybrid energy be reproduced in others? That's what I've been analyzing, Bulma replied, bringing up new displays showing genetic sequencing alongside energy pattern analyses. The process appears to require two components. Genetic compatibility with chakra systems is revealed in our previous findings, and significant existing ki development through conventional training. In other words, Piccolo interjected from his position against the wall, only certain individuals with specific genetic markers and advanced ki control could potentially develop this hybrid system. Precisely, Bulma confirmed. I've begun screening for compatibility markers across known fighter populations. Preliminary results suggest varying degrees of potential among different groups. She gestured to a world map displaying concentration patterns. Highest compatibility appears in individuals with Saiyan heritage, Gohan, Trunks, Goten, Pan, followed by certain human bloodlines with ancestral connections to specific geographical regions. My family, Videl noted, seeing a significant marker over the region containing Satan City. and others with traditional martial arts backgrounds. Quote, yes, Bulma acknowledged, certain human lineages show remarkably high compatibility despite no apparent Saiyan connection. Your father's bloodline traces Ba, CK to one of the oldest martial arts dynasties on Earth, suggesting potential connection to these guardians mentioned in the Arctic tablets. Naruto studied the distribution pattern thoughtfully. His aligns with what we learned from the sphere. The guardians from my dimension would have established themselves among promising bloodlines thousands of years ago, integrating their genetic material while adapting to this world's dominant key system. So I've got alien DNA? Krillin asked with characteristic directness. Because my compatibility rating is pretty high according to that chart. Not alien in the conventional sense. Naruto clarified. More accurately, your ancestors likely included refugees from my dimension who were themselves mostly human, just humans who had evolved with chakra rather than ki as their primary energy system. This explanation prompted thoughtful silence as everyone considered its implications for their understanding of Earth's evolutionary history. It was Gohan who eventually voiced the logical follow-up question. If Vidal's transformation is just the beginning, who else might develop these hybrid abilities? And what would trigger their awakening? Bulma highlighted specific data points on her display. Based on compatibility markers and proximity to recent dimensional events, several individuals show elevated potential for spontaneous activation. Pan is particularly notable given her direct genetic connection to Vidal's now active system. At mention of their daughter, both Vidal and Gohan exchanged concerned glances. Pan is at the Elderness training camp with Trunks and Goten, Gohan noted. Should we bring her back immediately? It might be wise, Naruto suggested. Not only for her protection against potential Otsutsuki interest, but also to monitor any emerging abilities. The awakening process can be disorienting without proper guidance. Vidal nodded agreement. I'll contact the camp instructors. She should be back by tomorrow morning. She turned to Naruto with parental concern overriding everything else. Will she experience the same process I did? The sudden influx of chakra was intense. Her experience will likely differ, Naruto explained. Your awakening occurred through direct chakra transfer during a sealing ritual, essentially forcing open dormant pathways all at once. Natural awakening through GENETIC proximity would typically be more gradual, with abilities emerging incrementally rather than all at once. This provided some reassurance to both parents, though Gohan's scholarly mind continued processing broader implications. If these abilities are awakening now after thousands of years of dormancy, it suggests a specific trigger event. The dimensional incursions seem most likely, but is there something particular about this moment in time? The dimensional navigation sphere showed cyclical alignment patterns, Naruto reminded them. Periods when our respective dimensions naturally drift closer, creating thinner barriers between realms. According to those calculations, we're entering a major convergence cycle, one that occurs approximately every 12,000 years. Coinciding with the last time these guardians visited Earth, Bulma concluded. And potentially why the dormant genetic markers are activating now. They were programmed to respond during dimensional convergence periods when Otsutsuki threats would be most likely. The strategic implications settled heavily upon the group. If Momoshiki and Kinshiki represented merely the initial scouts of a potential Otsutsuki harvesting operation, and dimensional barriers were naturally thinning during a convergence cycle, they faced the possibility of multiple incursions in the coming months. We need to prepare, Vegeta stated with characteristic bluntness. If more of these pale freaks are coming through, we need fighters capable of countering their dimensional techniques. Agreed, Naruto said, appreciating the Saiyan Prince's direct approach to threats, which means identifying and training those with highest compatibility as quickly as possible. Bulma brought up additional data points. Beyond those with direct combat potential, we should consider broader implications. If these genetic markers are awakening globally, we may see manifestations in unexpected populations, individuals with no martial arts background suddenly developing unusual abilities, which could attract unwanted attention, Piccolo observed grimly. Both from the Otsutsuki seeking energy sources and from human authorities detecting unexplained phenomena. As if summoned by this observation, an alert sounded throughout the laboratory. Bulma checked the notification with growing concern. Speaking of authorities, we've got incoming government aircraft. Looks like a delegation from the United Earth Coalition. Vegeta's scowl deepened. Politicians. Just what we need. They were bound to notice eventually, Bulma sighed. Already activating security protocols that would protect sensitive research data. Two-dimensional incursions with significant energy discharges visible from orbit weren't exactly subtle. Naruto considered this development with the perspective of someone who had once led a hidden village. Political engagement is inevitable and potentially necessary. If awakening chakra abilities spread beyond your immediate circle, having some level of governmental cooperation could prevent chaos. Goku, who typically avoided political matters entirely, scratched his head uncertainly. Should I stick around for this? Talking to officials isn't really my thing. Actually, your absence might be preferable, Bulma suggested diplomatically. Fewer unexplained power signatures for their sensors to detect. Naruto should probably remain as well, since his energy reads differently from anything in their databases. Decisions were made quickly as security alerts indicated the government aircraft were minutes from landing. Goku, Vegeta and Piccolo would depart temporarily, while Gohan, with his scholarly credentials and diplomatic experience, would join Bulma in meeting the officials. Krillin, as a former police officer with relevant connections, would also participate. What about me? Videl asked, rising from the examination table. As the first person with confirmed hybrid abilities, wouldn't my presence be significant? Quote, Naruto and Bulma exchanged thoughtful glances before the scientist responded. That's precisely why you should avoid official attention for now. Until we understand the full implications of your transformation, maintaining a lower profile seems prudent. Agreed, Naruto added. The fewer people who connect you specifically with recent events, the better. Particularly given Momoshiki's interest in your energy signature. Though obviously reluctant to be sidelined, Videl nodded practical acceptance of their reasoning. Where should I go? The secondary laboratory in the East Wing. Bulma suggested. We can continue monitoring your recovery there while keeping you off the official visitor route. As the group dispersed to their assigned positions, Naruto accompanied Videl toward the East Wing, his senses extended to monitor both approaching government forces and any potential dimensional disturbances. Though Momoshiki and Kinshiki had retreated, experience taught him that Otsutsuki rarely abandoned promising harvest targets entirely. You're concerned, Videl observed as they walked through the complex's winding corridors. Her perceptiveness had only sharpened since her awakening, allowing her to read subtle shifts in energy patterns that betrayed emotional states. Cautious, Naruto corrected gently. Momoshiki's interest in your hybrid energy signature suggests he recognizes its significance beyond immediate tactical applications. The Otsutsuki have always feared evolutionary paths they cannot control or consume. And I represent such a path. You represent its beginning, Naruto clarified. The first manifestation of something that could potentially spread, creating an energy system that naturally resists Otsutsuki harvesting techniques. They reached the secondary laboratory, smaller than Bulma's primary facility but equally well equipped for specialized research. As they entered, Videl continued their conversation on while settling into a monitoring station. When I channeled everyone's energy during the battle, I felt connected to something larger. Not just the combined power, but a sense of possibility, as if accessing something that had always existed but remained hidden from perception. Naruto nodded understanding. The tablet spoke of a new bloodline, for good reason. What's awakening isn't merely individual ability, but potentially an evolutionary branch, one deliberately seeded thousands of years ago as protection against dimensional threats. Before Videl could respond, the laboratory door opened to admit an unexpected visitor. Drive. Kazoo briefs, Bulma's archaeologist cousin whom they had met at the Arctic facility. She carried several data tablets and wore the focused expression of Song. E1 pursuing an intellectual breakthrough. There you are, she greeted them with scholarly intensity rather than conventional pleasantries. I've been analyzing the sphere's historical records since you departed. The implications are extraordinary. Without waiting for invitation, she activated the laboratory's main display screen, transferring data from her tablets to create a comprehensive timeline visualization. The dimensional navigation sphere contained records spanning over 20,000 years, she explained, highlighting specific data points along the chronological display. Including detailed documentation of 3 previous convergence cycles between our dimensions. Naruto moved closer to the display, genuine surprise evident in his ancient eyes. 3 cycles. That will predate even the earliest chakra distribution in my world's historical record. Exactly, Kazu confirmed, scholarly excitement animating her features. According to these records, contact between our dimensions wasn't initiated by the Guardians 12,000 years ago as we initially thought. That was merely the most recent significant migration event. She expanded a section of the timeline, revealing data points corresponding to approximately 36,000 years earlier. The first recorded contact occurred during a major convergence cycle here, a period corresponding to significant evolutionary development among both early humans and what the sphere identifies as Proto-Saiyan populations. Are you suggesting the initial genetic compatibility predates deliberate intervention? Videl asked, grasping implications quickly despite her comparative lack of scientific background. More than suggests, confirms, Kazu replied, bringing up genetic sequencing data extracted from the sphere's records. These compatibility markers appear in baseline genetic samples from before any recorded dimensional crossing. They weren't introduced by guardians or refugees, they were already present in native populations. The significance of this revelation settled heavily in the room. Naruto's expression reflected the weight of reconsidering fundamental assumptions about dimensional relationships. If compatibility existed before deliberate crossing, he mused, it suggests our dimensions aren't merely parallel developments, but potentially shared a common origin point in the distant past. 2 evolutionary branches from a single root. Precisely, Kazu confirmed. And there's more. The sphere contained reference to what it calls the Progenitor, a being predicted to emerge during the current convergence cycle who would reunite the separated evolutionary branches. She highlighted specific text extracted from the sphere's database, ancient script that matched Portio.ns of the tablets they had examined in the Arctic facility. When worlds align for the 4th crossing, the Golden Sage shall emerge from the realm of chakra, awakening dormant potential in the realm of ki. Through union with the chosen vessel, a new bloodline shall arise, transcending the limitations of separated evolution. Thus shall both realms be defended against those who consume. Silenk. Followed this revelation as both Naruto and Videl absorbed its implications. The prophecy's reference to Golden Sage corresponded too closely to Naruto's 6 paths formed to be coincidental, while chosen vessel suggested Videl's role in awakening the hybrid energy system. Union, Videl finally repeated, focusing on that specific term. What exactly does that mean in this context? Kazu adjusted her glasses with scholarly precision. The sphere's records use terminology that's difficult to translate directly. In some contexts, it appears to reference energy merging, the combination of chakra and ki into a unified system. In others, it seems to indicate genetic combination, bloodline merging through biological reproduction. The implications hung in the air between them, creating airy awkwardness that Naruto diplomatically addressed. Prophecies typically employ deliberate ambiguity, he noted from millennia of experience with such matters. Often accommodating multiple interpretation paths to achieve similar outcomes. Of course, Kazu acknowledged, her scientific focus overriding any awareness of potential personal discomfort. What's significant is the fundamental revelation. Our dimensions appear to share common evolutionary origins, with the current convergence representing a potential reunification point. Before they could further discuss these revelations, an alert tone sounded from Videl's communication device. Activating it revealed a message from the wilderness training camp regarding Pan. They can't reach her, Videl reported with immediate maternal concern. She separated from the main group during an exercise and hasn't returned to the checkpoint. Her communication device isn't responding. Naruto's expression shifted to focused alertness. When was she last seen? Approximately 2 hours ago, Videl replied, already rising from the monitoring station. The camp instructors say she was exhibiting unusual behavior this morning, heightened sensory awareness. Occasional disorientation, early signs of chakra awakening, Naruto confirmed, immediately grasping the situation's urgency. Her genetic proximity to you likely accelerated the process. We need to find her immediately. I'm going, Videl declared with unquestionable resolve. If she's experiencing chakra awakening without guidance, she'll be frightened and confused. Naruto nodded agreement. I'll accompany you. My sensory abilities can track chakra signatures over significant distances, particularly newly awakened ones that haven't yet developed control. I'll inform Bulma and coordinate from here. Kazu offered, already accessing communication systems. The government delegation is still in the main facility, so discretion would be advisable. Videl's expression reflected momentary conflict between maternal urgency and tactical consideration before settling into decisive action. We'll take one of the unmarked transport capsules from the secondary hangar. Less noticeable than the primary aircraft. As they prepared to depart, the laboratory door opened once more to admit Android 18, her artificial features set in an expression that approximated concern. I monitored the communication from the training camp, she stated without preamble. I'm coming with you. The declaration surprised both Naruto and Videl, given the android's typically reserved involvement in matters not directly concerning her own family. Sensing their unasked question, 18 elaborated with characteristic directness. My sensors can detect energy anomalies human instruments miss. If the child is experiencing uncontrolled power fluctuations, I can track electromagnetic disruptions even if she's suppressing ki deliberately. The practical utility of this capability was undeniable, and Videl nodded grateful acceptance. Thank you. We could use your help. As they moved toward the secondary hangar, navigating service corridors to avoid the government delegation in the main facility, Naruto maintained heightened awareness of dimensional stability throughout the region. The day's earlier confrontation with Momoshiki and Kinshiki had further weakened barriers between realms, creating potential vulnerability precisely when Pan was beginning her own awakening process. The timing seemed too precisely aligned to be coincidental, suggesting once again that larger patterns were unfolding according to designs set in motion millennia earlier. The wilderness training ground encompassed several hundred square kilometers of pristine mountain forest approximate. 300 kilometers north of West City. Designed to challenge young fighters with natural obstacles and minimal technological support, the region featured diverse terrain ranging from dense woodland to rocky peaks and swift-flowing rivers. Their transport capsule aircraft set down in a small clearing serving as the central camp's emergency landing zone. As they disembarked, they were met by the chief instructor, a weathered man in his 50s wearing the distinctive orange GI of the Turtle School. Ms. Satan, he greeted Videl with a respectful bow. Master Roshi sent me to coordinate the search efforts. I'm Instructor Tadao. What happened exactly? Videl asked, maternal concern evident beneath her composed exterior. Pan was participating in the advanced navigation exercise with Trunks and Goten when she suddenly complained of headaches and enhanced sensory perception, Tadao explained, leading them toward a map display showing the training area. She described seeing energy patterns and hearing conversations from kilometers away. Classic symptoms of sudden chakra pathway activation, Naruto noted quietly to Videl. Sensory overload during initial awakening can be disorienting. Tadao continued. The boys reported she became increasingly agitated, claiming she could perceive golden threads throughout the forest that no one else could see. When they Sugas, Ted returning to camp for medical evaluation, she flew off toward the northern ridge. That was approximately 3 hours ago. 18's artificial eyes scanned the indicated direction, sensors extending beyond normal perception range. I'm detecting scattered electromagnetic anomalies throughout that region, consistent with uncontrolled energy discharges. She's trying to suppress unfamiliar power manifestations, Naruto surmised. Without understanding chakra fundamentals, she's likely experiencing random jutsu activation as her system attempts to establish equilibrium. Videl's expression hardened with maternal determination. We need to find her before she hurts herself, or attracts unwanted attention from our pale visitors. Unlikely they've returned so quickly after retreat, 18 assessed pragmatically. But uncontrolled energy signatures could potentially register on their detection methods if they're monitoring from their dimension. Exactly my concern, Naruto confirmed. Let me attempt to locate her specific chakra signature. He closed his eyes, entering a meditative state that allowed his sensory perception to extend beyond normal limitations. Golden chakra flickered a round his form as he expanded awareness throughout the surrounding forest, searching for the distinctive resonance of newly awakened chakra pathways. After several moments of concentrated scanning, his eyes opened with focused certainty. Found her. Approximately 20 kilometers northeast, near what appears to be a waterfall. Her chakra signature is erratic but strong, definitely in active awakening phase. That's Crescent Falls, Chidao confirmed, marking the location on their digital map. Challenging terrain, steep approach through dense forest followed by sheer cliff faces surrounding the basin. We'll manage, Videl stated with quiet confidence, her own newly developed abilities perfectly suited for such navigation. Instructor Chidao, please inform Gohan that we've located Pan and are proceeding to retrieve her. Tell him to join us when he's free from the government delegation. With coordinates established, they departed immediately, 18 and Videl flying directly while Naruto employed chakra-enhanced movement through the forest canopy. His ancient eyes continuously scanned their surroundings, alert not only for Pan's fluctuating energy signature but also any signs of dimensional instability that might indicate Otsutsuki monitoring. As they traveled, Videl maintained position alongside 18, her expression revealing the concern beneath her composed exterior. Will Pan be all right? My awakening happened with your guidance and support. She's facing this alone. She's stronger than you realize, 18 observed with her characteristic directness. Her hybrid Saiyan genetics provide natural adaptability to power fluctuations. 18's assessment is accurate, Naruto added, momentarily syncing his movement with theirs above a clearing. Additionally, gradual natural awakening, while initially disorienting, typically establishes more stable chakra pathways than forced activation like yours. She'll adapt more easily long-term. This provided some reassurance, though Vidal's maternal concern remained evident as they continued their approach to Crescent Falls. The terrain grew increasingly challenging, dense forest giving way to rocky outcroppings and eventually the cliff faces surrounding the waterfall basin. As they neared their destination, Naruto suddenly raised his hand in a signal to halt, his senses detecting something unexpected. Wait, he cautioned, expression focused on sensory input beyond normal perception. Pan isn't alone. Both women immediately tensed for potential threat assessment. Otsutsuki, 18 questioned, her systems already calculating combat probabilities. No, Naruto replied, his perception narrowing on the specific energy signature accompanying Pan's. Different, yet strangely familiar. A chakra type one haven't encountered in thousands of years. Proceeding with increased caution, they navigated the final approach to Crescent Falls, a spectacular cascading waterfall emptying into a crescent-shaped basin surrounded by towering cliff walls. The afternoon sunlight created prismatic rainbows through the mist, providing natural camouflage for anyone within the basin area. From their elevated position, they could say, Pan sitting cross-legged on a flat rock near the basin's edge. More surprisingly, across from her sat another figure, a young woman perhaps in her early 20s with sandy blonde hair gathered in 4 distinctive ponytails. She wore utilitarian clothing in desert hues, and across her back was strapped what appeared to be a massive metal fan emblazoned with purple circles. Who is that? Videl whispered, maternal protectiveness instantly elevated by this stranger's proximity to her daughter. Naruto's ancient eyes widened with genuine shock, an expression rarely seen on his typically composed features. Impossible, he breathed, recognition evident in his voice. She bears remarkable resemblance to Tamari of the Sand, but that's not possible across such time and dimensional distance. Before further discussion could occur, both figures below suddenly looked up, Pan with the enhanced sensory awareness of her awakening abilities, and the stranger with the alert response of a trained shinobi. The blonde woman immediately grasped the massive fan from her back, adopting a defensive stance that confirmed Naruto's recognition of her fighting style. We've been detected, 18 stated unnecessarily. Approach options. Direct but non-threatening, Naruto decided after quick assessment. Pan will recognize her mother, which should ease tension. They descended carefully into the basin, landing several meters from where Pan and the mysterious woman stood in alert posture. Up close, Pan's condition became immediately apparent. Her eyes showed the distinctive ring pattern indicating chakra awakening, while blue-gold energy occasionally rippled visibly beneath her skin. Mom, she called out, relief evident in her voice despite the tension in her stance. Your eyes, they're like mine now. Yes, sweetheart, Videl confirmed with maternal warmth. I've been experiencing the same changes. That's why we came to find you. The blonde woman maintained her defensive position, fan partially open to reveal intricate seal patterns along its metal surface. Her teal eyes assessed each newcomer with tactical precision before focusing on Naruto with particular intensity. You carry the Six Paths chakra, she stated in accented but clear language, her voice carrying undertones of desert winds and practiced authority. Your energy signature matches the dimensional coordinates in the scroll. Naruto stepped forward slightly, his posture deliberately non-threatening despite his immense power. You're from my dimension, he observed with certainty. Yet you're not Tamari of Sunagaku. Despite the remarkable resemblance. Who are you? The woman lowered her fan slightly, though remained obviously prepared for potential conflict. Setsuna of the Sand, she introduced herself formally. Descendant of Tamari and Shikamaru Nara, shinobi of the Interdimensional Monitoring Division established by the 7th Hokage. The confirmation struck Naruto with emotional force rarely experienced in his long existence. This woman traced her lineage directly to two of his closest friends and advisors from his time as Hokage, friends he had watched age and die centuries earlier while he remained unchanged. You know the 7th Hokage's history? He asked carefully, testing her knowledge. Setsuna's expression reflected subtle pride. Every child of the allied shinobi nations learns of Naruto Uzumaki, the legendary 7th Hokage who defeated Kagaya Otsutsuki, established lasting peace between villages, and eventually transcended physical form to become guardian of dimensional boundaries. Her teal eyes narrowed slightly as she studied him more carefully. You match his description perfectly, yet claim no title. Who are you really? Before Naruto could respond, Pan-I. NT interjected with the blunt directness characteristic of her Saiyan heritage. He's Naruto, the golden guy who fought the pale-horned people. He helped Mom get cool new powers, and now I'm getting them too. Setsuna's eyes widened almost imperceptibly. You're claiming to be Naruto Uzumaki himself. That's impossible. The 7th disappeared from recorded history over 800 years ago. Tim. E flows differently for those who exist beyond conventional physical limitations, Naruto replied simply. To prove his identity, he allowed his chakra to manifest visibly, golden energy forming the distinctive shroud of his Six Paths Sage mode, complete with truth-seeking orbs materializing behind him. Setsuna immediately dropped to one knee in formal shinobi respect, her fan laid horizontally before her. Nanadime Hokage-sama, she acknowledged with reverence. Forgive my presumption. Naruto dismissed his power manifestation with a gentle wave. Please, stand. I abandoned titles centuries ago. Just Naruto is sufficient. He regarded her with genuine curiosity. How did you come to be in this dimension? The barriers between worlds have been sealed for millennia. Rising from her formal posture, Setsuna returned her fan to its harness across her back. I was sent by the Interdimensional Monitoring Council when sensors detected unusual barrier fluctuations in this sector. According to ancient protocols established by you, or rather, by the 7th Hokage, certain dimensional alignments require direct observation. She produced a scroll bearing seals recognizable to Naruto as his O.W.N. handiwork, designs he had created centuries earlier during his time establishing dimensional safeguards. This transportation scroll activated 3 days ago, allowing one-way crossing during the alignment period. Her expression became more serious. The council feared Otsutsuki activity might correspond with the predicted convergence cycle. Their concerns were justified, Naruto confirmed. Tenji Otsutsuki crossed over yesterday, followed by Momoshiki and Kinshiki today. Both incursions were repelled but not permanently. 18. Who had been silently analyzing the newcomer with artificial precision, spoke with characteristic directness. You've been monitoring Pan since finding her. Why? Setsuna turned toward the android, assessing her unusual energy signature with trained shinobi perception. I detected her chakra awakening while scouting this region. The mixture of chakra with this dimension's native energy, ki, you call it, created a signature that matched parameters in my mission briefing. What parameters specifically? Videl asked, maintaining protective proximity to her daughter. Potential manifestation of the transcendent bloodline, Setsuna replied, using termino. Logi that immediately captured Naruto's attention. According to records preserved from the 7th Hokage's final instructions, dimensional convergence would trigger awakening of a hybrid energy cyst. Incompatible individuals, creating what ancient texts call the Golden Sage's legacy. She gestured toward Pan, whose dual energy manifestations had visibly stabilized during their conversation. Her genetic structure shows perfect integration potential between chakra and ki systems, characteristic of what our records identify as the predicted bloodline. Naruto exchanged significant glances with Videl, the implications of this information aligning precisely with what they had learned from the Arctic facility and Bulma's genetic research. How many others know about this prediction in your dimension? He asked Setsuna, tactical assessment obvious in his question. Very few, she assured him. The Interdimensional Monitoring Division operates under highest security protocols. Only THE Division Commander and Council representatives have access to complete historical records. Pan, who had been following the conversation with remarkable comprehension despite her young age, addressed Setsuna directly. You were helping me control these weird new powers. You called them chakra. Setsuna nodded, her expression softening slightly when addressing the girl. Basic chakra control techniques. The same fundamentals taught to academy students in my dimension. Your adaptation rate is remarkable, far exceeding typical genin development. She has advantages most genin don't, Naruto observed, noting the stabilized energy patterns now evident in Pan's system. Saiyan adaptability combined with already developed key pathways provides natural framework for chakra integration. Videl moved closer to her daughter, maternal concern momentarily overriding broader tactical considerations. Are you all right, sweetheart? I know how disorienting these changes can be. Pan nodded with the resilience characteristic of her hybrid heritage. It was scary at first, suddenly seeing energy everywhere and hearing things from really far away. But Setsuna-sensei showed me how to focus and filter all the input. Her expression brightened with enthusiasm. And I can already stick leaves to my forehead. She says I'm a natural. Despite the serious circumstances, this childlike excitement drew small smiles from both Naruto and Videl, who recognized the universal experience of young shinobi mastering their first chakra control exercise. 18, however, maintained focused pragmatism. We should return to Capsule Corporation. If Setsuna crossed dimensions specifically to monitor for Otsutsuki activity, her intelligence would be valuable for defensive planning. Agreed, Naruto confirmed. Additionally, Pan's developing system should be monitored under controlled conditions. Natural awakening typically progresses through distinct phases over several days. Videl nodded, placing a protective arm around her daughter's shoulders. Gohan should be informed immediately as well. He'll want to understand exactly what's happening with Pan. As they prepared to depart, Setsuna gathered a small pack containing what appeared to be specialized shinobi equipment. My mission parameters included establishing contact with dimensional defenders and providing tactical support against potential Otsutsuki incursion, she explained. If you're truly Naruto Uzumaki as you claim, my assignment would be directly under your authority. Naruto regarded this descendant of his dear friends with thoughtful consideration. Her presence represented an unexpected connection to the world he had left behind centuries earlier, a living link to a dimension he had once called home. More significantly, our arrival with specific mission parameters regarding the transcendent bloodline, confirmed that his final instructions as Hokage had been preserved and followed across 8 centuries. Your assistance would be most welcome, he acknowledged. Particularly your knowledge of current interdimensional monitoring protocols and whatever intelligence your dimension has gathered about recent Otsutsuki movements. As they ascended from the waterfall basin to begin their journey back to Capsule Corporation, Naruto maintained subtle sensory awareness of the surrounding dimensional fabric. Though no immediate threats registered, he could detect the continued thinning of barriers between realms, a process accelerated by each crossing event whether controlled like Setsuna's or forced like the Otsutsuki incursions. The convergence cycle was progressing precisely as ancient predictions had foretold, awakening dormant bloodlines and bringing dimensions into alignment after millennia of separation. What remained unclear was whether this represented the culmination of a plan set in motion by far-seeing guardians, or the beginning of a conflict that would reshape multiple realities. Either way, the bloodlines were awakening, and there would be no returning to the separated existence that had defined dimensional boundaries for thousands of years. Chapter 3 End. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.